Hey, everybody. It is already the top of the hour, and Katie and I were getting a little carried away. We're just chatting away on our own and realized, well, hey, we've got other people that want to join the chat. So we're going to say hello to everybody. Welcome to Trusty's Vintage Late Night Live Sale. Still going to be late night for at least probably about another month or so. Rehearsals did start up for my new show, restart up for the show. So we should be performing in mid-March. So I'll have to be doing this late night after rehearsals on Thursdays. But at this point, who knows what's going to happen? We might be changing things. I might be changing things. Who knows what I'm going to do? We've got a different group that's joining us at this late night, which is always fun. But then we've also got the stalwarts joining us, like Peterson. Mila Rose is joining us. Of course, Tia Fane coming in from Ontario. Thanks so much for joining us, Tim. Wow. Ronnie saying hi. Jacqueline saying hi. Jacqueline always catches the replay, so she's actually getting to catch it for live one. So thanks for joining us. Kara coming in. Kitschy Cat is
Kathy.
Kitschy Corner is Kara. All right, we have lots of Cheryl also coming in from Canada.
For me to get that right.
I'm still working on it. Oh, we got Jerry, probably Jerry, Tim and Jerry. Coming in, Vintage and Vino, so another Southwest, so Western side, liking our late night time zone. And then in a completely new time zone, we've got Fiona Blackie Jr. that is in Singapore. So it's always fun to have the international contingent joining us. I have actually been to Singapore. My most vivid memory, it was really, really hot. That is what I remember, being in a suit in Singapore, feeling very overdressed and sweating to death. Tim, not in Singapore, snowing for 24 hours. Holy cats.
Man, you must have...
Oh, had to have your car towed. Oh, no.
Oh, no. That must have been Tim.
I think Angela was in the chat earlier.
There she is.
Making fun of me somewhere along the line. And so I think I ended up getting probably about 5 inches. And I'm curious what Debbie from Chicago, what she ended up getting, because pretty much we had 2 storms that kind of came through the Chicago area. I got hit the first one, but the second one that came through really I didn't really get anything. But I think the southern got a little bit more. So I think Angela may have actually been okay because she's farther north than me, but Debbie may have gotten some more. Lemmy also wondering what all of us are doing in New Mexico. Be like, snow? What snow? It's totally nice here. Snow in Austin. Wow. That's nuts.
The weather's been crazy there. It's been super cold, and I think they have a wind advisory.
Holy cats. I knew it'd been colder, but I didn't really got that cold. So I don't know. I mean, Austin's not like Florida, but I don't think didn't think they got snow. Southern Buckeye coming in from North Carolina. Welcome back. Haven't seen you in a while. Catherine lamenting the lack of snow, but she is up in Minnesota where she should have ton along with Peterson. They just don't have it. And she is absolutely promoting. If you didn't catch her last night, we did a joint sale, Catherine, Katie, and me last night, and she announced the collaboration she's doing for the love of vintage. I'm going to screw it up. For the love of vintage, it is you do a 60-second YouTube short and post it by Valentine's Day sometime, 6 p.m. I can't remember 6 p.m. Eastern or 6 p.m. Central.
7 p.m. Eastern or 6
p.m. So she's Central, so she may have said 6 p.m. Central. But what's great, because it's a great collaboration, she's already got some great people committing to it, and it's a kind of a low-level commitment because a YouTube short is 60 seconds. That's the most it can be. So my problem is going to be I can barely say my name in 60 seconds. So we will see what I actually get to cover.
I know, me too.
So the goal will be, and I'll be curious. I'm going to sell a few things tonight, but we're also just going to have a chat because I have more fun with the chat, and the sales at this time have just been weird. So I've got 2 things last night that didn't sell. So if you want my Lionel catalog or my Olympic mugs, say yay. You can have them, but I've got some other stuff too. But what you're supposed to do is pick I can't remember the wording. Is it your favorite vintage item what was I can't remember what Catherine, she did a great job of explaining exactly what you need to do. So if you've never done a collaboration, Catherine Young is her YouTube channel. Absolutely great one to check out because she really walked you through everything of exactly what you need to do. And it's only 60 seconds. So even if, you could do probably a 60-second without a clip. Without editing. So you can probably just do it as one. So, okay. So the wording was favorite vintage item so straight from Catherine's mouth, an item you love, one with meaning. Ooh, deep. All right. I'm not sure the one I love has meaning. Maybe you just mean meaning to us.
Yeah. It could be anything special.
I'm not solving world hunger with my one item. So,
maybe a family piece, that has a special history or story to it.
I'm gonna have to reread the wording because that now troubles me that maybe the one I want to do is not meaningful enough, but it is one of my favorites. So I'll probably do it, and it does have some meaning. I just have to figure out how to say that and explain it in 60 seconds. The one motivator for this, the item that I won't say what I'm going to do, unless other people start saying what they're going to do. But the item that I want to do is currently on display. It is currently in place in my living room. But when I go to do the video, I'm going to keep it at that location. There is something that I've been meaning to hang on the wall for, I'm not kidding, like 6 months. So I'm going to hang it on the wall before I do the video. So that'll be my motivator. Sammy Joe joining us. Thanks so much, Amy Joe. Debbie, Angelic Vintage Treasures. Debbie, am I right?
Yep, you got it.
It's been a while since I've seen Debbie, so that's great. So thanks for joining us again. Melody coming in from Pennsylvania, from the Keystone State. Forgot what the state was called there for a second. LJ coming back in. Thanks for joining us again. Let's see. So is anyone talking about, Michelle says she talked too much too. So let's see. Is anyone mentioning what they're going to be doing their video on? Wait, who's Sherry? Oh, Sherry. I miss Sherry. Hi, Sherry.
Oh, Sherry. Hi, Sherry. So many wonderful people coming in the chat.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining. So have you decided what you're going to do yet, Katie?
I was just talking that over with you, Patrick, before the show, and I'm not sure which one I want to do. I have my grandfather's chess set that he carved on the lathe when he was 14. And that's how I learned to do lathe work, is from my grandpa, Jim. And then my other grandpa, Charlie, we called him Papa, had a very special watch that I inherited. And that really meant a lot to me when I got that after he passed, because I just remember him wearing it every day. And every time I saw him, it was always on the dresser. When they'd come to visit, he'd put it on the dresser. So, that watch is really special. So I might do that, but I don't know. And you guys have seen so many cool things. I've been really lucky to inherit from my family. So I got lots of choices around here.
Shockingly, Tim. Okay, I did pick a couple up from Goodwill. I'm not sure if this is one of them. I actually have. There's one that I wore in one of my videos. I literally just discovered this. It's like the funniest thing. It's the one that has the surfboards on it. I've worn it before. I've had it for a while. I'm pretty sure I picked that up in a Goodwill, but I don't think it's particularly old. I just got it used. And it was always, the outside is very faded. And I'm like, okay, it just probably got washed a lot. Never really paid that close attention to it. And the other day I was hanging it, and I hung it on the hanger inside out because the shirt was made with the fabric in reverse. The inside of the shirt is the outside design. So what you see when I wear the shirt is actually the back side of the cotton fabric. And it's like, so it's fine. It's there. It's just, it looks really, really faded. But then like, if I wanted to flash you, it would be this perfectly colored inside of the shirt. It was just ridiculous. So I absolutely considered, Michelle, wearing it inside out, but then the buttons are inside out as well. Like I'm not that coordinated. And luckily that's still one of the shirts that fits me. So I don't have to wear a t-shirt underneath it and keep it open because I'm fat. So it's like, that's really my measurement right now is, can I button my shirt? But yeah, so that one I think was older, but not vintage. I have to say, I'm not sure vintagey. But I used to wear Hawaiian shirts in high school. Do not have any of those. My ex-wife burned all of those. And so now it's just, in some cases, there's shirts from shows. So the ones that I first started, I don't know, Melody's here. I'm not sure if Halem is here. But Halem started commenting on some of my shirts. The first ones were actually costumes. They were shirts that I wore for shows. And I just thought they were so fun that I just kept them and didn't really wear them that often. And I started wearing them on, on YouTube, and people commented on them like, oh, they kind of like, and so then they've added on. So now I've gotten some as gifts. I got a Doxy shirt to wear for the fundraiser. I've worn it since then, but I got a Doxy shirt. I've got, I think 3 flamingo shirts now. 1 fits, 2 don't, or no, 2 fit and 1 doesn't. So yeah, but I don't think any of them are technically vintage. But
Patrick, you need to come here because there are Hawaiian shirts pretty much at any store down at the beach.
Oh, I can imagine.
Everywhere. So you could probably find some really cool ones. I might have to go hunting one day for some Hawaiian shirts.
Yeah, I used to be able to kind of like large was what I was feeling comfortable in, and I have now definitely moved into the extra large territory.
I think we all have.
Yes, it's one of those like I need to figure out something. But I'm going to show. Tim asked if I played a drug lord, so I'm going to see. So here's
Hamster says that he has a same kind of Inside Out shirt, and it drives him nuts.
It is, because now that I've noticed it, I don't know why it took me so long to notice it. Now that I notice it, drives me absolutely insane. Okay, so I wasn't technically a drug lord, but I pulled up a picture from a show. So that is my tiger shirt, and I got to wear a tank top and some chains, backwards baseball cap, flip flops. This is just, you do not see me in this, unless it's a Saturday. No, you don't see me in this ever. So that was one of the shirts.
What show was that from, Patrick?
That was from a show called The Book of Liz. It's not by David Sedaris, it's by his sister. But so it's a Sedaris, but I can't remember her name. Here's a little bit better shot of the shirt, because the shirt was kind of like flipped open on the other one. So that one I wear pretty often. This one's quite the opposite. That is actually super big on me because I started wearing that. Even though I've gained weight, I'm still down about 100 pounds from my heaviest. So I never want to go back to that. So that shirt was actually from when I was very heavy. So I do like wearing that because it makes me feel thin. So
it looks comfortable. It looks like a nice, comfortable, soft shirt.
It absolutely is. Let's see. Well, okay. You asked if I was a drug lord. This was my daughter called this a drug rug. I'd never heard this term before. This was from when I did Mamma Mia.
Oh.
Mamma Mia takes place in the 90s. And so that was, I felt that was very, very period. And she said that was called a drug rug. So I don't know why that term and why my daughter knew that term. Let's just call that. But in all of these shows, I'm playing younger men, so I have to dye my beard.
It's probably from a show, Patrick, something that has become coined.
So let's see.
Yes, Mamma Mia was good.
Okay, well then I'll just, because we're just having fun tonight. I have no problem. I have no inhibitions here. There I am in the women's swimsuit. So that's beard.
Your drag show.
That was when I did the Some Like It Hot musical. So I was the Jerry Daphne role. So that was me in my swimsuit. And if you pay, like, you would never know, but if you see some of the pictures, I do have a tattoo. So in all of the clothes that I had to wear for the Some Like It Hot, they were all strapless. They were all like spaghetti straps. They had to like sew big flowers and corsages to cover up my tattoo. Thank you, Melody. I am quite proud of my legs, actually. So
a lot of people are commenting.
Everyone's like commenting on my legs. That's awesome.
Did
The
you have to get
woman,
makeup on your tattoo too?
I tried that, but then I had something like 7 or 8 quick changes in that, and so then the problem,
Oh,
it wears the makeup gets onto the clothes and it wears it off. So it was one of those cases. We kind of turned it into a joke because if people know the movie Some Like It Hot, I start the show as a guy, and then I'm being chased by the mob. So we hide out in a female band. And so we start out like, okay, well, I've got a tattoo as a guy. And so it kind of became a joke. That's like, oh crap, I've got a tattoo. How do I hide this as a woman? So we actually kind of made it a big deal, so it actually worked. But I have had to wear makeup to cover my tattoo before. I appeared nude on stage one time, and I had to put makeup on my tattoo for that. So yes.
yeah, and those quick changes, I'll tell you, they're hard to do. We used to have to do
Yes.
them for people when we did one for Greece, and then we did another one for, I want to say it was Fiddler on the Roof. We had a couple, I think, in the wings, which was tough because you've got a lot of moving parts going on, and you have to kind of block people off, if they're getting totally undressed from other people. So it's a whole thing.
Well, the worst one I had to do, and a part of it was because the director just wasn't paying any attention. So it was the scene that I did in the bathing suit. I left stage right, and then she made me enter on stage left. So for people that are not used to theater, the general concept of that is I left one side of the stage and then had to run all the way behind stage to the other side to be ready. And in that time, I had to switch from being in the swimsuit with wedge heels to being in an evening gown. And
Whoa, that's
so I had
hard.
3 dressers that were working with me because I had to get opera length of gloves on. I had to change from the wedge heels, you can't really see them, to actual pumps and get into this evening gown and then walk on stage. More than once, I was pulling my gloves up as I was walking on stage because we didn't quite make it. So we've got suggestions of a tattoo cover. I actually did have a couple different tattoo covers, but we always had the problem with it coming off on the clothes. So it was one of those, we made it work for this one. And I think my days of appearing nude or having to do anything like that are probably over. Nobody wants to see this. So not probably going to worry about that again. This was my first movie. I won't be in the sequel. I was killed.
So, oh man, look at the fake blood on that.
Didn't make the sequel. That was my first movie. Oh, they're missing a bunch of pictures. Oh, this is one of them. This was the actual promotional shot from the Some Like It Hot musical. So that was me with all of the ladies. We were all in our swimsuits. Come on. So you can see the lineup. That made a lot of people's cover images. And people are like, I can't believe you're doing that. I'm like, I didn't mind doing it. I didn't care. Like I said, at the time, my legs looked good. My legs still look good, but
I mean, the thing is, it's for theater. That's what I.
And it was a major role. Like, it was a hard role too, because I am an actor. I am an actor who sings with a lowercase s. Like, I am not a singer, but I had to sing 9 songs, but 7 of them I sang as a woman. So who cared? Like, it didn't matter what I sang like. So the movie I did was called The Journal. It was an independent film made by Blue Collar Men Productions. And it was all, the director was like 21, 22. It was all his friends. They all played high school students. And then there were like 4 of us who played the adults. And so I played the father of the main guy, and my son was like 6'2" and a like bodybuilder, and I'm supposed to beat him up. I'm like, okay, we're going for fiction. But yes, it was that was my first movie. I then did another movie called, I'll never get it right. It was the Taylor Family Annual Thanksgiving Day Ping Pong Tournament.
Whoa,
And
that was
that
a
was
mouthful.
actually, we've got a film school here in Chicago, Columbia College has a film school. So it was the graduate program director hired me. And that one, it was also a short, both of them are shorts. That one was a short, and that one actually debuted at Cannes Film Festival. So my name is on the poster at Cannes. That movie was done, but didn't really do anything. I actually have ownership in the journal. If it ever makes money, I'll get royalties, but I don't think it'll ever make money. It basically would make a good drinking game because it's bad. And you there's all kinds of ways to just joke and be bad. Here's another Hawaiian shirt. Unfortunately, it's in black and white, but you can see the flowers on
Do you
that
still have
one.
that one, Patrick?
I do not have this one. This one had to stay with the theater because this one, if you know the show was called Noises Off. And this one, the way this had to work was I had a Hawaiian shirt that I wore for the entire show. And then I fell down the stairs. And when I come from falling down the stairs, my shirt's torn, my pants are torn. So I had to have two outfits for the entire thing. So I had to have the one that I could quick change into that was all torn. And so both of the shirts stayed with the theater. So if they ever did the show again, or if they had some reason to do that, they would have both shirts. So that one I didn't get to keep. But that was a fairly boring one. It just had like hibiscus flowers on it. I have ones with flowers, but like I like this one. I don't know if you can really see it.
Yeah, I like the lobster.
There's a lobster
It's
on this
fun.
one. It's just got to be goofy,
And you got the Hawaiian drinks coming out.
I was saying, then you've got the crazy, like the big glass drink with all the umbrellas and stuff on it. So those are harder to come by. Like my favorite one by far is the dragons and the tigers.
Yes.
Those are not particularly common. So I will say one of the things a lot of them do, particularly for anything that is older or more delicate, they will really just Febreze the crap out of it, or they'll use vodka, really cheap vodka. And so they'll particularly like for sweat stain areas, because it's expensive to dry clean. If anybody has ever owns a dry cleaner, the best thing you could ever do is give a theater free dry cleaning in exchange for a full page ad in their program, because they can't afford to pay for the dry cleaning, but they could totally give you an ad. So it's just one of those cases. And most of the shows I've done like some period, like I had to wear the evening gown. Now that was actually weird though. Like there was a funny story with that one. So I wore the evening gown in the musical is called Sugar, but nobody's ever heard of it. So it's the Some Like It Hot musical. When I wore that gown, it was the same gown that Eliza Doolittle wore in My Fair Lady a year before. And the woman that wore that dress was not happy I was wearing it. Just like, did you have to have it altered? I'm like, no. So basically it's like, honey, you're fat. You and I are the same size. Live with that. So that one, that had all beading. It had a bunch of mesh on it. That one, there's something called Dryel, which is used, and it's kind of like you can put delicates and put suit coats, things like that, in a fairly large bag, and with a little dry cleaning sheet in it. And so that kind of helps get wrinkles out and also helps for smell, because that's the biggest thing with theater. It's the smell. You're under those hot lights, depending on what you're doing. You're running around. You get sweaty. So that's really the biggest thing. Unless you're dealing with food and stuff like that, they tend not to do like heavy duty cleaning. And then, but like other than that, with a couple of exceptions, it's mostly contemporary stuff. So you're wearing contemporary clothes. It just goes in the washing machine.
Yeah. Our theater had a washing machine, and every night after each production, they would throw anything that could be washed into the washing machine. So it would get thrown in there. And then other things, they had an industrial steamer to keep it nice and crisp and not wrinkly at all, which was hard when we did Les Miserables, because, you're moving around a lot, particularly in the last couple of scenes with the barricades and the gunfights and all of that. And so they would steam, basically everything that they could. But
Yeah.
those had a lot of intricate buttons and things, so they didn't do a lot of washing for that. And that's where the vodka came in.
The one thing that we did, and it's really the only time I've ever done a show that had to do it, and I'm seeing if I can find a picture of it. If anyone is familiar with Death Trap, I did.
Oh, a great show.
I did Death Trap as well, and oddly enough, I only did Death Trap like 4 years ago, and I played the Christopher Reeve role. I played the 25-year-old. Yeah. Because the guy, and what also ironic, the guy that played then my Sydney, who's supposed to be the much older, he was actually a month younger than me. So we just had to make it work. So we had to make him look old. We had to make me look young. And there's, a little bit of a spoiler alert. People don't know it. I die. I've died a lot in different shows. I die by getting an arrow shot through my chest. And so we actually had a mount to do that. And we used real blood. Well, not real blood, but we used blood. So every time I got shot, I was covered in blood. And so that evening, we had our costume mistress had to attend every show. And she had to do the clothes the next day or that night because I needed the clothes for the next day. Because there's another scene where I get buried and then come back from the dead. So that's another case where I had to have two sets of clothes. I had to have my regular clothes from when I get killed the first time. They bury me and then I come back from the dead and I'm completely covered in mud. I'm completely covered in everything. And I come back and that's what I'm trying to find is the picture from that. That one I could have two sets. So I had one set of clothes that was clean, one set of clothes that was dirty. But shooting myself with an arrow, I didn't have a chance to change clothes. So that one, it happened while I was on stage and you had to clean it. So you just deal with it. And people, like when you go to see a show, you shouldn't think about stuff like that. But if you see a lot of shows or see the same show each time,
to wonder.
Start thinking about that kind of stuff. Like, wait, because there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that those people don't get a lot of credit, and they should. Because like she'd be at the theater until an extra hour than the rest of us all went out to the bar. She's sitting there trying to get the stuff from the washer into the dryer so that it was ready for the matinee the next day.
Mm-hmm. When we did several productions of various Shakespeare shows, when people get stabbed, one of the things that we had is like a pouch of fake blood under the clothing, so that when the dagger went in, it would, of course, it was a retractable dagger, so it wasn't real. But it would be enough to pierce the bag and then the blood would come spilling out, the faux blood. But that's a mess to clean up. And we would have to mop the floor. So after everybody left, we were mopping the floor, the stage floor with these big industrial mops. And then the costume people had to clean all of that up. And then since I was props master for quite a few shows, part of that is refilling, all of the stuff that needs to be refilled, checking the refrigerator. Because what would happen is we had a refrigerator off to stage left. Well, people thought that refrigerator was just like a personal use refrigerator. So people would just shove stuff in there or they would eat the prop. So I would come to do a show and I'm like, well, where'd the ham sandwich go that we needed? Someone had eaten it. So we had to start putting signs, like big signs all over the refrigerator and like tying it off, like do not use this refrigerator for anything. And I had a fellow props master that had gotten really tired of people not putting the props back and doing what they were supposed to. So she wrote this enormous sign that was basically like, the ghosts of the theater are going to get you. If you do not put your props back. Because when we did Fiddler on the Roof, there's a lot of props for that show, like small handheld things. Like buckets, and you need several different types of books, and there's all those things are you got to gather and find. And people were taking, in the beginning, the way our director had done it, is they had all of the people from Anatevka coming in with their little suitcases and whatever else, and going across stage right to stage left. Well, a lot of people were taking the suitcases and the baskets and whatever they had for the beginning of the show. And if they had any other props, just shoving it down into the suitcase or the basket and then putting it back. So for a couple of weeks in rehearsal, I was like, where are all the props going? Like they would just disappear. So then I'd have to go back up to the prop loft and I'd be looking for another book. And I'm like, well, no, this is a novel and this is not the kind of book she would carry because you have to be very specific. And I got really tired of that. Finally, I said something to the director, and she's like, well, I don't know where all these props are disappearing to. Well, we found a bunch of them in the suitcases. I'm like, come on, people. The tables are taped off. I worked very hard to tape and label everything.
Yeah, that's a lot of work in and of itself.
It's a lot of work. I spent all like couple Saturdays doing that and getting it ready. So all the things that go on like behind the scenes, people don't realize when you're watching live theater. One of the things I thought was fascinating, Beauty and the Beast, Beauty and the Beast and Mary Poppins came here. And I got a chance, it was our big theater downtown, I got a chance to go backstage and meet the props master and talk to some of the cast and crew, which was amazing. And the props cabinet for Beauty and the Beast and for Mary Poppins was super impressive. Now, for Mary Poppins, if you've ever seen the show, the house with just seconds, it's like Beetlejuice. The lights go out and immediately there's some magic trick and the house has reverted itself. They're up on the roof. They're doing something. It's amazing. And of course, I couldn't share how the magic works, but you could see all the people setting it up and just how complicated it was spectacular.
Excellent. All right. I did find the video that I wanted to share, so hopefully it'll work. I'll just have to show it to you on my screen. So hold on, let me pull up the volume. So this is the scene from Death Trap when I come back from the dead. Department of Health, Education, and that was me coming back. So if you heard the very beginning, that was a live performance. People were screaming throughout that show. Every time I came back from the dead, there was some woman that thought it was real. She thought this was just the most fascinating thing. So yes, I was the madman. We also had a photographer that would come in and do the archive shots, still shots, and I've got a bunch of those from the final dress rehearsal. The guy who played Sydney, it was his daughter who was the photographer, and he had not told her about the show. She didn't know the show, so she was just taking pictures as it happened. And there's two different ways to play the scenes between Sydney and Clifford. And one of them is that we are plotting the death of his wife to get her money because he and I are lovers. And so over the dead body, he and I kiss. We didn't get any photographs of that because the minute we started doing that, his daughter went, "What?" So we did not get any shots. So it was always an interesting way to see how the audience was going to react to that in a very conservative town. Oh, Nate's back.
Yay, Nate.
Nate missed all the pictures of me in my lady swimsuit. Sorry, Nate, but I'm glad you got your power back.
We did a couple of shows.
Went on strike.
We did a couple of shows that were pretty racy, and we, in rural little Palatka, people did not particularly agree or like it. And it was funny because they would bus in. There was a retirement community that lived about 20 minutes away in Hastings, which is like a small little potato town. They literally are known for their potatoes. And so all these little ladies would come in to see like the production that the colleges were doing. And it was this big deal. They'd come down and they'd watch. And we did this one show that had such vulgar jokes, and it was hilarious. I mean, most of the audience loved it, but these older people that came, they were like, "What is this?" They did not like it at all. And I sat behind one lady that gasped. She was just like, no.
I was on the play reading, the theater that I did that show, and also the one that I did Some Like It Hot musical. I one year was the chair of their play reading committee, and we picked the 7 shows that they did. And it was the most strenuous process because everything had to be taken into consideration of what the audience was that was in this community. And it was a conservative community. The average age of the audience was much older. We like very darkly joked that Death Trap was going to kill some of our audience members because they couldn't handle that kind of energy or that kind of excitement. But it meant that we really couldn't do anything particularly edgy. We couldn't do anything with strong language. There, and it was always this case like, well, we should push the envelope. We should try and do something. But the theater makes its money by ticket sales, and if you offend some of your ticket buyers, they won't come back. And so it was one of those cases. It was frustrating because you'd want to do something. You'd find this really great show, but there was something like we had people walking out of California Suite because of the discussion of divorce and having an affair.
Wow.
And it's like, okay, I felt they were leaving because the show was really bad, but they did complain later that that was not something we should have been glorifying on our stage. And so it's like something like a Neil Simon you think is completely harmless, but to a certain audience, it is.
Yeah.
So I have never had a spooky experience in a haunted theater. Most of the theaters that I've been in have been like the one that I just showed. That is an old, like it was either an Elks Lodge or a Moose Lodge. It was built in like the 50s and then they abandoned it and they turned it into a theater. So it doesn't have like huge history. My very first show I did was Miracle Worker. That was in a 120-year-old windmill factory, but it wasn't a theater, so there were probably people that died there, but like not the typical. And the rest of the building was like the police department and the city hall. Like there wasn't a lot of fun hauntedness. And I just really haven't had that opportunity. Have you had anything like that, Katie?
Well, it's funny you say that because one night I was working really late. It was like 3 a.m. at our theater in college. And I was up in the light booth running lights and doing just other random things. And there were people down on the stage, and this lady started screaming. And she's like, there's a ghost, there's a ghost. And, there was supposedly a ghost that was inside the theater, but I'm not really a ghost believer per se. So I thought, this is kind of crazy. And I looked and I didn't see it. But of course, I was way up high. So the people that were looking up into the cats, I don't know, maybe they saw something. I'm not particularly sure, but I did see a video a couple of days ago about several Broadway playhouses that actually are haunted, or they say they're haunted. And
Yes.
people have seen like a boy up in the nosebleed section running around. There's been all kinds of things like that.
Well, I think it's the Palace Theater, which is the one that they're in the process of raising it up. And so they're talking about that they're disturbing because that one evidently has something like 20 ghosts and that each one is very specific. And so it's this whole idea like one of them only appears in the mezzanine. Well, now the mezzanine has been moved, so it's one of these cases like, how does that affect the ghost? So it's one of those cases. I mean, I went to a school that was a university that was founded prior to the Civil War. It did the whole Civil War hospital thing. And we had some ghost stories in our freshman dorm. And actually the dorm of that school is what my tattoo is of. And so there were ghost stories from people there. And I do remember one time we were talking about one of them explaining some general, I can't remember the specifics, was like some Civil War general was on the top floor of the building. He was dying. And so they brought his horse up to the 5th floor of the building to, so he could see his horse the last time. But evidently this is like the way the ghost story goes. So I don't know if this is true or not. But city boy, they said that I guess horses cannot walk downstairs. Evidently horses can walk upstairs, but they can't walk downstairs. So they had to kill the horse. And so the ghost is of the general and his horse walking the 5th floor. And so we were doing that story. And at one point during the story, we were in the hallway and the cooler of the drinking fountain kicked on, while we said the guy's name. And everyone's like, oh my God, it's him. I'm like, no, it's just time for the cooler to run on the drinking fountain. But you never know.
There was a kid that came to the theater one time and said the name of the play that shall not be named. And
Oh,
people started
yes.
freaking out. They're like, don't do that. And someone else brought in a peacock feather for a dress. And they're like, nope, we're not. Nope, nope. I'm like, okay.
I do set dressing for some, and I did set dressing for a show one time, and I put clocks on the wall. And somebody walked. We'd already had them up. They'd already been rehearsing, no issue. And then some old timer came in and was horrified that there were clocks on the wall. That's evidently some version of bad luck. And I'm like, well, I have 13 clocks on the wall, so we're just really going to hammer this bad luck home because that's what we're doing. I will be doing, hopefully somewhat soon, just going back to Janet's comment. I did a, I can't remember if they were duo dives or if I did them as deep dives, but I had the costume, the woman that runs the largest costume warehouse in the Midwest is actually down the street from me. She's costumed me a couple of times. And I've rented Halloween costumes from her. She's come on and she talked about, I think one was about 1920s clothing, and then she did another one. I can't remember what the two categories are, but I am actually going to go to her the next time, and I'm going to interview her on location and show. She's a 10,000 square foot warehouse of clothing stacked 3 racks high. I mean, it's just a huge number, and that's one of the ways pre-COVID. That's the way they made their money, was doing the renting out of the entire cast. Their biggest thing were schools. So like they had all of the costumes for The Wizard of Oz, all the costumes for Beauty and the Beast, all the costumes, and like for Music Man, like, 100 different costumes of the 76 trombones, the band uniform for the end. So because at some point, like I'm helping a show right now, I'm in one show while I'm doing set dressing and props for another show. And we're basically arguing about how to do this, the one I'm doing set dressing for. And the costume, they just found a costume person, and the issue is it's arsenic and Olace. And so there's, I think, 4 members of the police department. They all need to have matching police uniforms. And they're all like, where are we supposed to get these? Yeah, that's just not something you never want to have to do a community theater production where people have to match, because it's very unlikely you can find them. And if you find them, it's unlikely you will have the right sizes. And sizing is a very big deal. I'm not small. I'm not massive, but I'm not small. And so the costume they're giving me for Matilda, I fit into the jacket and the waistcoat, but the pants, okay, if I don't have to move or breathe, I probably could wear the pants. But I'm like, I need a little more room in these. And so they're trying to let them out and do what they can, because they're trying to put me in an orange suit to be Mr. Wormwood. And I'm like, well, I can't go find my own pair of orange pants. It's going to match the rest of this suit. So it's very difficult sometimes.
Really hard. When I did Rocky Horror Picture Show, and I go every year, so it's sort of a fun thing that I love to participate in. If you don't know that about me, finding a corset is really hard, because
I had to wear a corset for Some Like It Hot.
The sizes are all different. So I found I wanted to find one for Columbia, which I always go to Columbia, but I ended up having to glue like hundreds of tiny sequins on.
Gluing them too is that's.
And my friend Frank, who does costuming, and he told me, he's like, well, you can sew them on. He's like, I don't know about gluing them. And actually the glues held up. But
Excellent.
The shorts even were hard, like to find the right shorts, and then to glue all of or iron on all of the ribbon. That was a pain. So like if I could find someone to custom make the shorts, I would, but I'm sure that's very expensive.
One of the third show I ever did was costumed by this big warehouse, and it was it took place during World War I. So we were all soldiers, and so we all had to have World War I era uniforms. And so she had to purchase them all the best she could, and then she had to alter all of them to make sure that we all looked the same, that we're all from the same group or whatever. I was the Scottish one, so I got to wear a kilt. But it's expensive. That's the other thing people don't take into consideration. Like it becomes questionable when you get into Broadway. You're in a whole nother level. Like you're doing
Yeah,
union, you've got all this other stuff. So a ticket maybe $250, and you think that that's insane, but in some ways, it's barely making any money for anybody that's involved because there's so many costs. But even in a small production, renting the primary costumes for Beauty and the Beast will be between $3,000 and $6,000.
yep.
So that's just for the main characters. That's not counting all of the forks and the spoons and all the things that you have, um, that's running around in the background. And so it's something that they then have to sometimes raise ticket prices. Even the theater that I was talking about, the tickets for something like a Hot Musical, those tickets are more expensive than the plays because the rights are more expensive, the casts are bigger, so the costumes are more expensive. There's just a lot more to take into consideration that, again, most people don't think about it. They're like, oh, I want to go see that show. And they don't think what you're actually getting, what your tickets are actually paying for.
And I'll say high school theater is super hard too, because, those schools a lot of times don't have the funding. Our drama department growing up did not have the funding. We raised all the money through candy sales.
Oh, wow.
Sell $1 candy bar to kids. We'd go to the homecoming dance and sell donuts, through Krispy Kreme's like donut sale program, which made us, very little money. And we get some money from the school, but all of that went to football and sports and the main programs. And the school, while they would give funding to the football program for the security that the school required us to have for the shows, they would not give it to us. And they'd only let us do a play or a musical we'd work months on for one night. They didn't.
You're kidding.
Yeah, multiple nights. And so we'd spend all this money, and then to get the costumes. I mean, if the parents didn't make the costumes, you'd have to rent them. And I think when we did Grease, which was our biggest musical, the costumes were something like $3,000, just, and not including the rights, and then the lighting, and then the security detail. I mean, it was insanely expensive, and we all worked so hard to raise the money, and barely made enough to do the play. So that's why a lot of high schools do more plays than musicals now, or some of the drama teachers are writing their own stuff so that they're not having to, because that just gets so expensive. And it's hard because you want to do a big, like, end of the year musical your senior year, and it's not always possible.
And you want to have the big cast because people want to participate. They all want to be a part of it before they graduate. But yeah, sometimes the rights can be thousands and thousands of dollars, and then it's per performance. So like you said, you did it all, you have to do it in one night, because you do it again, now your costs are double. And you do it again, now it's triple. So there's a lot to take into consideration budget-wise.
It gets very expensive, but it's a lot of fun having those creative challenges sometimes.
Absolutely. And it's a lot of work to then only do it one time.
Yes.
that is troubling.
Yeah, I mean, we went to, I remember going to flea markets and thrift stores looking for stuff to decorate the bedroom and the show for Grease. And we found like an Elvis poster. And I remember being so excited finding that for like $3 at this flea market. Because I'm like, that is perfect for the show.
And that's why I like doing set dressing, because it can be just fun, because sometimes you have to have specific props. You have to have certain things, but sometimes it's just like, okay, we need a coffee table, but anything could be on the coffee table. So then it's like, okay, what's the cool stuff? So like when we did Death Trap, the main character, the house that it's in, is a theater critic, and it takes place in 1978. So we went and found playbills from 1978 and put them on the coffee table. Now, nobody had any idea that they were that period specific, but we had a blast knowing it. We even did a 1979 Ford Thunderbird catalog in the magazine rack next to the chair, because figured like, oh, he's going to get his wife's money. He's looking at the new Thunderbirds. So, just fun stuff like that maybe gets missed by most people. Every once in a while, someone will catch it. And even if they don't, the actors are, they know it's there and they can have fun with it.
Which is always really exciting. Finding that exact period thing is I had fun when I did props for Fiddler on the Roof, researching and that time what kind of milk buckets they would have had. I mean, most people wouldn't notice they would be like, oh, just any old milk bucket for a cow would be fine. But no, I specifically did research on the shape and found the closest thing we had, and then we added like metal detail to it. It was fun doing that. It's not easy, but the research part of it can be very exciting.
That is
I saw
fantastic.
someone asking me if I sing, and no, you do not want to hear me sing. I
Well, you
sound
do
like
a great Joey impression from Friends.
oh, a terrible Joey impression. I am not good with voices, and I'm not good at singing. That is not my specialty. But
Unfortunately, I was looking for one of the pictures I wanted to show and I can't find it, but the military one, because the costumes were pretty cool from that one, but can't find it.
but I always say that I sing anyway, even though I can't sing.
Yeah. And the benefit that I have is that in general for both plays and for musicals, but particularly for musicals, there are never enough men to go around. So I started getting big parts for musicals simply because I showed up. So, I mean, I do think I can sing. I need to do more of a character role. Like no one's going to pay me to like be, Michael Bublé or just like sing ballads and just like, I don't have that kind of a voice, but singing as a woman or singing a character song, like for Matilda, we dropped the British accents, which I was very sad because like I had a good Cockney accent for my song. But it's just a goofy song to how much I love my television. So I don't have to sing it beautifully. I have to be funny. So let's see, missed a lot of the chat. So yep, High School Musical can run between 10 and 35,000 hours easily. Yeah. Our Town's a good one because the set's not expensive and it has a huge cast. So that's the other thing. Like it's difficult in some cases that you want to do a certain show, but if you're in a high school with 500, 600, 700 kids, you need a pretty big show because otherwise you're going to have a ton of people that don't get cast. And that's not, we always want to give participation trophies to all of our children. So, you may be the second soldier on the left, but you still will get to be on stage. And we're seeing that with Matilda. Matilda is supposed to have, obviously, Matilda, but then it's also, I think the way it's written, I think there's supposed to be 8 little kids and 8 big kids. And the big kids can be played by adults. In Broadway, they were played by adults. And so they're just the older kids, but they're playing big kids. In our version of Matilda, those 16 children have expanded to over 50. When it was cast, we had over 70. And some of them have dropped out. Some dropped out because of COVID. So it's like it's winnowed its way down. But it was basically one of those cases. If you want to be in it, we'll let you be in it. So you have a chance to perform. And as a result, we're going to sell hundreds of tickets because all of those kids are going to have their parents come, and their neighbors and their aunts and uncles and their Girl Scout troop, their Boy Scout troops. So, there's money to be made when you start shoving kids into a show.
We had kids that would perform from like local schools around town when we needed kids for a show when we were doing stuff in college. And of course, there would be tons of parents that would show up, which would help the ticket sales a lot.
And yes, the biggest difference with the theater, always call and ask if you see that they're announcing a show that's a period show, that's where they're going to have problems because most theaters, their biggest issue is storage. So they may get something for a specific show, but then they have no place to keep it. So they'll typically limit it. So like if they find a period refrigerator or a period oven or something for a kitchen scene, they might store that. And then that's where you start going, well, wait, this show takes place in the 40s and that's a 50s. Yeah, suck it up because that's the best they're going to be able to do. So particularly if you want to donate or even loan, like sometimes they'll take it as a donation, but then they will donate it to Goodwill. One of the bigger theaters I worked with had a relationship with their local Goodwill that Goodwill would give them everything they wanted for free. They just had to sign it out. And then when they were done, they just donated it back to Goodwill. So it was this great opportunity. So when you're doing props or set dressing there, you just kind of had to keep circling back through that Goodwill to see if anything of the period that you needed. But that's rare. That's the only theater I've worked with that did that with the Goodwill. So there's a lot of ways. And the theaters, they're 501c3 organizations. So if you're donating, they can give you a letter of donation. In some cases, they may not value it as much as you do. Like we're dealing with arsenic and lace. Like I have to deal with, they're going to be drinking out of wine glasses. Like I don't want Waterford wine glasses because they're going to break.
Yep.
There's going to be a problem. So it's like if you're donating them, that's great, but just be aware, sometimes
Yep.
things might not last.
And you got to make things indestructible, because actors will find a way, if
Yep.
there is a way, to break something, even if it is non-breakable. Somehow something always happens to it.
Absolutely. One of the first set dressings I ever did was She Loves Me. And I don't know if anyone's familiar with that show. It's the same script that You've Got Mail is based on, but it was originally written as a Hungarian play called Parfumery. And so the original versions take place in a perfume shop. So She Loves Me takes place in a perfume shop. We needed perfume bottles. And so I was helping with the set dressing. And so I was picking up vintage perfume bottles that were glass. That was a mistake because we never broke the actual bottles because it was a small cast. Everyone was being very careful. But what kept breaking were the little dabber, the little the extensions that came off the stoppers. So we were like basically creating weapons on stage, that we had these shards of glass on the bottom. So that was not good. So that was like lesson learned. That's why the very first things I sold when I started doing resale were Daher tins, because those look fantastic on stage. They look just like porcelain, but you can throw them across the room and they won't break. So
Yep,
Daher
they're
tins are
great.
fantastic. I did an entire set. I did an entire ginormous hutch of August Osage County. I did stage set decoration for that. And I just did the entire hutch. All of everything was out of tin. And of course, they weren't vintage people. And they're like, these are like the best things ever. Because at one point, the cabinet's supposed to fall apart. So like we could bring the stuff down to the floor. It didn't drop to the floor because you would hear it. But like we could do all of this without worrying about actually breaking and then harming a actor, because that's what it's all about. It's all of a sudden something breaks on stage. You've got sharp glass, something that falls on the ground. I hate shows where I suddenly see the actor or actress is barefoot. Like, oh,
No,
please
that's
just don't do anything that's going to create a problem for that person. When liquid is involved, sometimes you'll see an actor just like completely out of character suddenly bend down with a towel and be wiping the wet floor. Well, they have to, because someone's about to dance through there, and if they slip, they will have a problem. So sometimes you have to, like, again, suspend disbelief and just move on.
Yeah,
But
and when we did Fiddler on the Roof, you could have had beer in the steins, but that would have been with all the table dancing and slinging,
oh
like that
yeah,
would have got everywhere. So you just pretend that, that there's beer in it.
yeah. That's no, just jumped as I went to click on it. That's what's sad. Front porch pitch
Yeah,
picker.
it is.
A lot of programs. I mean, back in my day, we did still have it, and we had the football team. Like you had to have sports, but we could do the other stuff. But it was shortly after I graduated where budgets started approaching that issue, where we may have to take things away, and there was never a discussion about taking away sports. It was
Yeah,
always taking away theater, music, choir, art, all of those types of things. So it's unfortunate, but it's all about money. And I'll be very curious as COVID kind of reverses itself and we get back to whatever the new normal is going to be. Will people start recognizing that teachers go through a lot? Teachers are underpaid. We expect them to watch not our kid, but the 29 other kids that are in their classroom. And
yeah.
particularly when you're dealing with like a 6-year-old, you couldn't pay me enough to be in a
No,
room with
no, no, no.
36-year-olds. I'm sorry, just not going to happen. And they have to buy their own school supplies. They have to, like, all these things that they just don't have money. And it's just insane. And then they cut the fun stuff. I'm not saying sports can't be fun, but it's like not everyone. And I was not a sports kid. I'm
I'm
still
not a
not a
sports
sports kid.
person.
If I didn't have those outlets, my big thing was speech team in high school. It's how I met my future wife. I got scholarships because of it. I went to state, I went to nationals. I went to Mankato, Minnesota. I had opportunities that typically are only given to sports teams. This was something because our school offered it. And then it wasn't that long that schools stopped having the money to do it.
And it's sad, because like Patrick said, not everyone's into sports. I wasn't. And there's a whole bunch of kids in high school that felt like they finally fit in when they got into the theater group and they had a place to go. And our drama teacher was excellent because she created that environment that was a very much a safe space to just have fun and to be ourselves, which I was really grateful for, going, to a Catholic school where everything else is super regimented. So it was nice that she created this little hour out of the week or whatever for us to just, be able to hang out and do theater, which was excellent. And
Yeah.
it's sad that a lot of the kids don't have the opportunity anymore. And then you get into all the, political stuff, and I don't want to get too much into that, but it does limit you on the shows and things that you're allowed to do. And that is hard too.
Yeah, I just got Tim, never feel guilty about that. That is part of the
No,
joy of
it
even
is.
being in the theater. Like there was one of the performances. I'm very proud of I take it very seriously, as most people do that are in it. But we were on stage. It was during a live performance it happened to be of Death Trap, and the person who was doing sound wasn't paying attention. They admitted it later. They were not paying attention, and so when the cue came to ring the doorbell, it didn't come. So, we did a quick pause where we realized that it didn't happen. So then we just covered for it, and it wasn't a big deal. And as the actor turned, I can't remember exactly what we said, but we're like, well, whoever was supposed to be coming. Like, oh, I can't remember the character's name now, but it was the lawyer. It's like, well, so-and-so said he was going to be here any minute. I'm going to go take a look, see if he's coming up the drive. And so he turns, and as he does that, the person in the booth realized that they missed cue, and so suddenly hit the doorbell. I started laughing and I couldn't stop. So it's not even my scene. I'm just supposed to be over at the desk. I'm doing my own thing. I am like hunched at the desk. My shoulders are like jumping. People in the audience are like, he's losing it. He's laughing. And of course, that then makes it worse. And so I'm like practically under the desk trying not to be seen because it was just goofy the way it fixed itself. And I just found it completely humorous. And sometimes, just like when you watch the old Carol Burnett's, sometimes you get caught in that giggly mode, and it's hard to break back out of it. And if you ever are just bored and you want to go on a little surf through the rabbit holes, entertain yourself by looking up community theater productions of Into the Woods and looking up their version of Milky White. They are hilarious. So in the Broadway version, Milky White was just Milky White's a cow, if you don't know the show. And in the Broadway version, it's a cow-sized cow, but it's a statue. And so it slides in and out. And I think it actually had a handle on it. Like I said, at one point they pick him up and run. So there's like a little bit of a joke to it, but sometimes it's played by a person. There is no reason for this cow to be played by a person. It has no lines. And at one point it dies. So there's just these, and so, but sometimes it's then, well, okay, we need to make a fake cow, but we don't have the money to do a complete polystyrene, 3-dimensional thing. So it's like a little wood cutout. It's a little stuffed animal. Like it could be anything, and you just have to roll along with it. And it's hilarious.
The best blooper that I ever saw was I saw a production of Peter Pan at the local community theater. And I had taken some friends to see it, and we were sitting in the audience. And Peter Pan, he flies out of the window, and they usually have like a lift. Well, I guess the lift wasn't working. So they're trying to lift him through the window, and they have these big swoop curtains, and his thing gets stuck, the lift. And so they're pulling, and you can see someone in the cats like trying to yank on it while the curtains are just bouncing. And he can't, and everyone in the audience, there was like a moment of silence, and then people just start laughing hysterically, and he's just hanging there like, what do I do?
And sometimes those are the things you remember about theater. Like I remember the first time I only saw it once, but an early trip to Broadway, I saw Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. And if anyone's heard of that show, it was plagued with huge problems. It was rewritten literally 3 times. It had 2 formal openings because it got rewritten after the first one because it was so bad. They had so many technical problems. There were actors that were being injured. One actor had both of his feet crushed by a mechanical trap door. and these problems plagued the production. It ran for 3 years, so everyone thinks of it as the biggest flop. It made millions of dollars, but it was the most expensive show too. So it's like it did run for 3 years. But the night I saw it, it had already been running for like 2 years at that point. The way they kind of did it was actually kind of cool. You actually had something like 9 people that played Spider-Man. So what you would do is, so one of them would swing over the audience and the orchestra and end up, backstage right. And then you would have another Spider-Man who was set backstage right to go across the stage to backstage left, and then another one there that would come back over the audience. So it's like it was never one person swinging in a circle. It was like they were doing tag team. So if you just backed up and realized, okay, that Spider-Man's much more muscular than the little scrawny one that just went by. You just skipped over that part. And so there was at one point they were making the transition from a backstage Spider-Man up to the balcony Spider-Man. Halfway across the orchestra, he stopped. The mechanism just stopped. And so the orchestra had to stop playing. The entire show had to stop while he just hung in midair. He didn't it wasn't like he broke, he didn't fall or anything. There was no danger. And it clearly happened all the time because he just started doing aerial tricks. He started doing flips, and he's like entertaining the audience while they had to manually pull him up into the balcony. And then they're like, okay, the show will resume. The orchestra picked up where it left off. An entire 20-piece orchestra picks up, and suddenly the next Spider-Man flew by. So it just had technical. I will always remember that performance. And then the other one was I've only been to a couple West End performances in London. It was Andrew Lloyd Webber's "Whistle Down the Wind," which has never premiered on Broadway, but they did do this West End version, which was baffling. It was a bunch of British actors with American Southern accents. And so the main character's name was Amos. Like, dude, that's not how you say that name. That's not Amos. That's not right. But there's the set was pretty cool. And I can't remember the specifics of it, but like the way the set was done, they had a couple of different major things. And so in the way it was designed was on the back of the theater, or the back upstage of the stage, there was this cantilevered piece, basically an entire second stage that would slide into position and then slide back out of position. So while it was down, they would reset things that were behind it, and then they would lift back up. So this whole stage, it is the size of the stage. The entire stage is coming down. There's a woman sitting on a suitcase waiting. I think she'd already started singing. She's singing her song as she's coming into position. You suddenly hear this loud pop, and everything stops. All the electrical went out. All of the emergency exit lights came on. The orchestra was no longer playing. There was no electricity. They'd blown whatever. And so they had to make an announcement. They're like, do not leave your seat. It is not safe to leave your seat, because there was no lights. This was London. They have different rules than they do in the United States. They're like, you cannot leave your seat because you could not see anything. And so we just sat there for like a half an hour while they tried to do it. And I got to know these 2 little nurses from Yorkshire who were in town to do a neonatal massage program. I'm like, what the hell's that? And we just had a blast. And I told them that they were all pronouncing Amos wrong. And they were blown away by that. They're like, really? And that's one of my best theater experiences ever. I can't even barely tell you what the show's about, but that was one of my favorite experiences. So
when I was in New York,
gotta love even when things go wrong, that means it's going right. Yes. And you have a lot of fun.
When I was in New York and I saw Phantom of the Opera, which was like a dream show for me to see. I mean, I've seen it here, but it's one of my favorite Andrew Lloyd Webber shows and shows in general. So, of course, I wanted to see it at the Majestic. And I was sitting next to this guy from Russia. And when intermission came about, everybody was exiting. Their theater is actually very small. They only have like 2 bathrooms downstairs. It's like little. And we ended up just staying in our seats. And this guy had never been to Broadway, never been in the States. But it was the most delightful conversation with this gentleman from Russia about how much he loved Phantom of the Opera. It's just, you'll never forget those things. Guy was super nice. and it was a fun show. Of course, the theater wasn't too packed because Phantom runs for so long that people figure, I come to New York, Phantom will be here. I'm going to go see whatever is new and hot. But what's cool is when the chandelier comes down, if you're right under it, you get that full like whooshing effect of the chandelier coming by. And I always thought, well, it would be terrible if something happened to that and it like had a mishap. That would be the worst.
That has to be so like secondary and tertiary protection devices. Like they cannot kill an audience member. that would be bad. So I do need to pay my mortgage, so I'm going to sell a couple things. You were talking about Russia, and it made me think of this. I have the 84 Olympic mugs. Now, the 84 Olympics were where? Pop quiz. Where were the 84 Olympics? I had to look it up. I didn't remember.
I don't know. I wonder if any of our audience knows.
So the 84, this was the Summer Olympics. I think this was back then. They happened in the same year. So this was the 84 Summer Olympics. They happened in Los Angeles. So that was in the United States. But I also have Olympic pins. And these were from 92. So where were the Winter Games of 1992? Because I've got the Winter Games pin. And then I also have the figure skating and the figure skating pairs pins. So I've got these enameled pins. They're the USA program 1992, but they were not in the United States at that point.
Yes, in Russia?
No. The Russia was just the international aspect of it. The only sports I ever paid attention to were the Olympics, and it was only because of the international stuff. It was in Albertville, France.
Oh,
so it says that at the bottom. Albertville, France. So 1992. So I have 3 enameled pins still in their original packaging for the 1992 Winter Games. So one of them just promotes the Winter Games. So it's got the 1992 Winter Games on it with the logo and then Albertville, France. And then the other 2 are the figure skating and then the pairs figure skating. So I've got 3 pins. And we are actually having a sale. We're an hour and 10 minutes into this chat, and we're having a sale. So you get all 3 pins for $10. $10 for the 1992 Olympic pins by giving us 63. So 3 pins, 63. And the mugs were $12. Number 87. I sold those last night, but they didn't sell. So if anyone wants those.
I love the Olympic pins. They are very collectible. In fact,
they're very collectible, yes.
There are trade shows within the Olympics just for pins, and people wear them on their lanyard and they trade them with other people. It's just such a neat experience.
And like Disney World, they do the same thing. Like that's and some of those pins can get really expensive too.
Oh, they can.
We'll go back to the United States. I've got the Americana salt and pepper set in its original packaging with early American motif. Salt and pepper set, Americana. Made in Maryland Heights, Missouri. It's made in Hong Kong for a company in Missouri. It's a little packaging, and this is for Nate. It looks like Wedgwood, but it is not. No. It is plastic. It is these little plastic with the little piper and drum of the bicentennial and the Pennsylvania City Hall, Independence Hall on the other side. But it's done to look like Wedgwood Jasperware. So you've got the salt shaker and the pepper shaker has different designs. So you've got the Liberty Bell and Betsy Ross on the little Americana salt and pepper shakers. So cutesy little thing. I thought it was cool that it still had the box because that you don't typically come across. But they're only $5. $5 for the plastic Wedgwood for Americana. $5 by giving me number 72. $5, number 72. Yes, Angela, you should have seen that. I picked it up like 2 days after you were there.
And Nate is fainting because of the plastic Wedgwood.
Look what Americans do to Wedgwood. We completely bastardize it. And we've got All-American Baseball. go full screen on these because I've got a pair of fruit and vegetable crate labels.
Look at those.
So this is for Texas vegetables. Safe Hit. So we've got the baseball player, Safe Hit Texas vegetables from Gulf Distributing. I can say it. Westlaco, Texas, packed and shipped. So based on the size, I'm thinking that these would have been on the end of those wooden crates that you would ship the vegetables in. These would have been glued to the end. These have never been glued on, so these are new old stock. So you've got, what I'm selling is a pair. So you've got the Safe Hit Texas vegetables and the Gold Rim Texas vegetables. So both of them are Gulf Distributing. Why am I having problems saying that? But both of them are crate ends. So you've got a pair of the labels, and you can get the pair for $8 by giving me number 77. New old stock vegetable labels, Safe Hit, and Gold Rim. Get the pair for $8 by giving me number 77. Did I break Nate?
I think Nate's still recovering from the plastic Wedgwood. Oh, but those labels are fantastic.
Yeah, I love it, just ephemera in general. And it's like, this is one of those cases where a lot of times I'll get ephemera and I'm like, I want to keep it. I can respect these, but I don't necessarily have a desire to put them into my collection. So I'm perfectly happy curating these to have someone else take them and give them a good home. They would look fantastic framed. The baseball one, I don't like to use this term, but like the whole idea behind the man cave, you've got this vintage artwork of a baseball player that just happens to be a vegetable piece. This one I showed in one of my haul videos, and I definitely wanted to show it here because I think there is a market for this, but I'm just being very upfront with this. It is a Czechoslovakian glass vase, trumpet vase. It has a crackled finish to it. It is purple, kind of a mauve color on the inside with the gray that's kind of onion skin on the outside. The bottom of it has a chip. So something, either this hit something or something fell against it and it chipped this little circular chip out of the base. It's not structural. There's no crack that extends from it. It's just along the side. And there's another place at the top, which makes me think that it probably like fell at some point. So this, if you're looking at this, there's a chip right here on the rim. You can see that right there. So if I put that at the top, the chip on the side is here. So they're basically both on the back side. So if you wanted to put this on a bookcase or any place, you actually could turn the damage to the back. It is a beautiful piece of glass. I've considered keeping it for myself, but I don't like to keep things with damage. So this is, again, something I very honestly will then say, I think someone could give this a good home. It's a beautiful piece. It has much higher value than what I'm paying for because it's, well, if it were in perfect condition, but because it's damaged, I'm only selling it for $10. So it's $10 for this vase. And I don't have I forgot to grab my tape measure. It is, got a piece of paper here. It is 11 inches tall. It's the size of a piece of paper. So it is 11 inches tall. It's just a beautiful piece. Again, structurally, it's totally fine. Just this little chip and then a little nick at the top, and it's $10. So if this is somebody's colors, you want, and it's probably from like the 90s, 80s, 90s, I would say, maybe getting into 2000, but I think there's a little bit of age to it. But it's $10. So $10 for the vase by giving me number 89. $10.89 for the vase.
Catherine, you definitely need a quick excuse to own this. And it's just gorgeous. There's your reason. You need it.
Yeah, exactly. It's gorgeous. That's the reason. And then the other two things I wanted to show, I didn't have a lot of stuff for tonight. The other two things I wanted to show that I picked it up at the same time I got that piece of glass. I found two pieces of pottery. And everyone knows I love my pottery and I love pottery in general. And I do have other collections of pottery. These two pieces I'm passing out into the world. This one is, I'm not even 100% sure. It looks like it's trying to be salt glazed pottery. It's got kind of the same finish that the pieces behind me have, but in more of the browns. But it might have been someone who was just starting to do it because they didn't glaze it properly. So there's parts of it that didn't get the full glazing effect, and they forgot to do the bottom. So the bottom basically took on more like a Raku effect. So it's got the chalky black that covered, because you can see where they stopped glazing along the edges. They didn't glaze the bottom. So it is signed. So I don't think there's a huge amount of age to it. But it is one of those cases that people do still try and do salt glaze. There's a Rowe, Beaumont Brothers, Rowe Pottery Works. They do more like they're replicating what I've got behind me. But salt glaze is a technique, just like Raku is a technique. It's just kind of a cool little conversation piece. It can hold your paintbrushes, could hold little short for pens, could hold, a handful of utensils, spatulas, spoons for a utensil holder. It is $8. So I'm just selling it for $8 because there's nothing particularly special about it. It's just kind of a nifty little piece. And as a piece of signed art pottery, I think it's worth more than that. But I figure I don't have a way of selling it because there's no real terms to help people find it. So you guys can have it for $8. So $8 by giving me number 34. And then the other piece is a more traditional piece of art pottery. This one is signed by E.T. So, maybe before he phoned home, after he phoned home. 89 was $10. That was the trumpet base.
Yes, 89, $10.
And this is also $10, but you can see this has a different type of technique. I have a couple pieces that have done this type of technique. This has a little bit more red in it than I typically bring in, but it does still have the gray and the black. And it is a directional piece. So you've got this decor on the front, on the back, it's blank. So they only gave the extra spaghetti design on the front, but they did do the striations all the way around. They did the same thing on the base. Look at how well formed that base is. Like somebody knew what they were doing when they made this. E.T. totally phoned home for instructions and knew what they were doing. The only thing that's on there, there's no date. So it's just the E.T. So I'm not sure if I wouldn't count this as studio piece. So this might've been a student piece. And then the top is completely flat, but it is still glazed. So I don't think a lid would have gone on here because I don't think you can really tell. But you can see there's a little bit of a lip here. And I think if you had put a lid on that, this lip would chip off. I don't think you would want to have this little curve. So I think it's designed to be open like this. It's just a cool little piece, far more artistic, far more attractive than the other one, but I'm still trying to pass it on as basically a generic art pottery piece for $10. So $10 for the striated pottery by giving me number 7. $10, number 7 for the second piece of pottery. So it looks like we've got some gifting going on.
Yep. Brigio wants to send 89 to Catherine, but bill her.
Okay. I can do that. And I didn't bring any of my stuff for the mystery boxes, but since we're talking about gifting, my little mini mystery packs were becoming popular as gifts. So if anybody wants to do that, just tell me. You can send me an email saying you want to buy one and who you want me to send it to. Those are $15. That includes shipping, and it's a mixture of smalls, ephemera, non-ephemera, all packed up. And I think they've been popular. Yes. And they're a heck of a lot easier for me to do than the big mystery boxes. So, but they're fun for gifts because they're inexpensive because it already includes the shipping. Catherine actually, without telling me that she was going to do this, she ended up receiving my box. She received Kim's box from Oh My Vintage. And then she told us we were going to go head to head. And she was doing a video to compare our two boxes. And I immediately was like, wait, mine included shipping and hers didn't. Like I was totally scared that I was going to have someone, I was going to be compared against. But I read all the comments when she did the video, and there are several people that like things from my box, several people that like things from Kim's box. It all kind of depends on your aesthetic. So it was fun. So,
and I agree, those pottery pieces, Patrick, would make great utensil holders in your kitchen.
Absolutely,
they are really a stunning statement piece.
Very good. So I have some ephemera, but I don't know if anyone's particularly interested in ephemera. It's, we're just chatting tonight, so we're good. So Catherine's calling herself the Scratch and Dent Collector. So I'm curious. That actually triggers a fun conversation because I am very vocal. I do not have, with exceptions. I mean, some of the stuff behind me is 19th century. Yes, there are going to be issues but I still try not to bring anything that has a crack. Because cracked chips to me they're still not great, but I'd rather have a chip than a crack because a chip typically will not grow. A crack could. And I had that happen to me one time. I purchased very, very early on. I purchased a little, it wasn't like a cinnamon, it wasn't salt or pepper, like a cinnamon shaker or some sort of a little canister. And it had a hairline crack in it. But at that time I just picked it up. I got it at a really good deal. I set it on the counter, and the way I set it on the counter, I heard it go, thunk, and it was this deadening sound. And all of a sudden I looked at it, and that crack had gone from just at the very lip all the way down to the base where I just set it down. And it wasn't like I slammed it. It just was, I just hit it just the right way. And it was enough to send that crack all the way through. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing that again. Particularly for some of these pieces, because even with cracks, some of these are several $100s. I don't want to run the risk of buying it because then when it ships, it could crack further while it ships. So cracks are a far bigger issue, and it's not that you shouldn't buy them. You should know that it has one, and then you should pay accordingly. So it's my thing has never been don't buy something that's damaged. It's just know that it's damaged, and sellers need to disclose if it's damaged, and then price it accordingly. So that's my soapbox for the day. Someone just shouted out for the ephemera. So I will do like a fast pass version of it. And then if you want to see the details, I will show you. So we've got some.
A quick note, folks. I think there are several people that are lagging. So make sure you do refresh so that you're up to date with the feed.
Well, I've only sold one thing, so the lag probably isn't a problem. You could probably still get it. But yes. Keeping a refresh is always good.
Well, I see people talking about corsets, and I think that was.
Oh wow, that was a while ago. That is a lag. All right, so for the ephemera, I've got a little stack here, so I'll do fast. And if you want to see more, so we've got the wine cookbook, and on the back it has the foremost "Pay Less, Get More" annual wine festival. Buy a bottle today. It does not have. It has a single-digit zip code. So when does this fall, Katie?
It falls between 1948 and 1963.
Okay, all together, class. So we've got a piece, and it looks like Angela is picking up the reddish brown, the reddish pottery. So thank you, Angela.
Hey, Angela.
She'll probably resell it on her sale. That's totally fine. I've had people tell me that I sell at good enough prices they can sometimes resell it, and I am 100% behind that because trust me, I made money off of that. So I'm certainly happy to have somebody else make money too. So it's the wine cookbook. It's $5. It is from inside. It says it's published in California. So it also has a single-digit zip code, but it's published in California, and it was distributed in Chicago. So we've got soups, seafoods, meats, chicken and game, salads, vegetables, desserts, wine with meals. A word about California wines because it was published in California. And then, of course, the index. There are some graphics in this one. What the heck?
What's that?
Okay, we've got a bottle of wine, a gun, and a dead bird. All right, sorry, didn't mean to trigger anyone on that one.
Either got drunk on the wine or got off.
Wine jelly. That's one of the few illustrations in this one. Okay, we got a little dessert going in this one.
Charm.
It also has the Union Made label in the back. Some people collect that, so it's always good to point that out. So we've got that. That is $5. Number 74. We then have a set of recipe books that all go together. These are all from 1954 and 1955. So they were edited by Ruth Beroltzheimer, Director of Culinary Arts Institute, published by the Consolidated Book Publishers in Chicago. So we've got 250 breads, biscuits, and rolls. We've got 500 delicious salad recipes. Got 2,000 useful facts about food and 250 delectable dessert recipes. So all of them, these do have the graphics. What is that?
Those look like Jello mold. What is that? Apricot rice mold? Oh no, thank you.
Apricot may be made with half peaches or plums as well as apricots. Okay.
Yeah,
Let's
interesting.
see. You can draw on your rice pudding. You can draw pictures with your cake decorating set.
I mean, that's fancy and would be great for a dinner
The
party.
centerfold's actually in color. So it looks like the centerfold is the same as the outside, but without the text.
Jeez.
So you
I'm
got
all
something to frame.
confused.
Frozen ginger cream. They're big in apricots. We got an apricot angel
Yeah,
cream. Got some desserts
maybe
there.
apricots were in season then.
Pear cake, Dutch hard sauce,
Ooh.
prune ladder.
Okay, well, I don't know about the prune ladder, but I know behind me that hard sauce. That sounds pretty darn good.
Jiffy cranberry refrigerator cake, refrigerator cheesecake, refrigerator Christmas cake, refrigerator cake. I don't know what a refrigerator cake is. There's like 2 pages of refrigerator cakes. What's
I
a
have
refrigerator cake?
no idea. Like, do they sit in the refrigerator for a couple of days, or
All right,
like?
so let's pick one. So the apple butter refrigerator roll. Fold apple butter gradually into whipped cream. Spread wafers with mixture, arrange in piles or form into a roll, and cover top and sides with remaining filling. Sprinkle with chopped nuts and chill about 3 hours. Cut, roll in diagonal slices, and serve on individual plates.
So it's like
So I
no
guess you
bake.
finish it in the refrigerator, I guess. Yeah, all of these are saying chill. Place a
Chill.
weight
Okay.
on top. Chill, unmold, and garnish with whipped cream. Chill overnight. Chill until firm. Chill for about 8 hours. Okay, we're not doing any last minute cooking here.
No, you
Chill
have
for
to.
at least 12 hours. Yike. Individual steamed fig puddings.
Ooh, now I do like fig pudding. I have had and made fig pudding, and they were actually a pretty big hit at my Christmas dinner party one year.
And so then we've got purchasing guides. So this is the one with the 2,000 facts. Let's get Katie back up here. So let's see. Purchasing guides for limes. Select green heavy fruit. Surface blemishes do not indicate poor fruit. Yellow fruit is not acid enough. No, yellow fruit makes it a lemon. That would be if I were writing the facts. Yellow fruit means you're buying the wrong thing. Rhubarb. I don't even know if I know what a rhubarb looks like. Rhubarb. Choose fresh, firm, crisp, tender, thick stalks. Red or pink.
Wow, that's a
That
lot.
does not help me.
Fresh, firm, thick, and tender all at the same time.
Yeah, that's like somebody pulling out the thesaurus and just pulling it all out there.
On.
Firm, tender, and thick. We just got trusty after dark. Plums and prunes. Ripe fruit is plump and yields to slight pressure. Man, we are trusty after dark.
Man, that is whoever was writing that.
Man, we're it's getting warm in here. To prevent for pies, cakes, etc. To prevent juices from cooking out of pies into oven, place a strip of dampened cloth or pastry tape around the edge of the pie, or place a tiny funnel or 4-inch stick of uncooked macaroni upright in the center of the pie. Okay, there's so much to unpack here. So, okay, first of all, what the hell is pastry tape?
Yeah, I was wondering that. I've never heard of that.
I've never heard of that. Second, place a tiny funnel. Okay, so they're basically talking about a pie bird, but if you don't have a pie bird, you can use a tiny funnel or a 4-inch stick of macaroni. Who's making the freaking macaroni?
Yeah,
That's massive. That's like manicotti size.
Okay, well, apparently there is such a thing as pastry tape, and it comes in all, well, now I'm sure, back then it didn't have all the designs, but now apparently Etsy You can buy a whole
Check out our pastry tape selection.
pastry tapes. So it's
Holy cats.
now what does it do? Oh wait, okay, here it is. PVC baking, packaging, and transparent. Oh, it's like okay, the surrounding edge on cakes.
So is it basically like you just tape around it so it doesn't bubble over?
Yeah, I guess
Like
so.
Michelle's saying, it's like parchment paper tape. So yeah,
Well,
so somehow you would, but I wouldn't think it would stick. And I thank you, Jan. What the heck is a stick of macaroni? Okay. So I've seen that. I've heard of that for souffles. I have heard of that for souffles to help it rise as far as it can. But I just thought it was like, I think you just use paper for that.
But see, some of the clear pieces look to me more like cake collars. So I don't really know the
Okay.
differences.
And we did stick a feather. So called it macaroni. Does anyone know why he stuck a feather in his hat and called it macaroni? Here's our useless trivia for the evening.
Let's see if anyone knows.
I was gonna say, we'll see if anyone. Melody spouted it out, so we'll see if she can actually land it. But that song is not as goofy as it sounds. So keep glass jars and covers in which salad dressing is purchased. Remove pasteboard insert. Wash and dry and use as containers for leftovers to be stored. That took space in a faction food catalog. Basically, use an old jar for leftovers. Drain deep fat fried foods on absorbent paper. What, as opposed to your bed sheet?
Like, where would you?
Where else are you going to?
I think the people that were writing this were drinking heavily, as someone pointed out in the chat. They had too much of that hard sauce.
Definitely drinking heavily. 4-inch dry piece of fettuccine. And Tim has it. Yeah, a macaroni was basically what a dandy was called. Like that was it was referencing to a person. So the joke is he's so goofy or so simple, he thinks sticking a feather in his cap makes him a dandy or makes him macaroni. So it has nothing to do with the food. So good job, Tim. You are our font of knowledge.
Tim is on it.
Okay, as we've got, Captain Obvious here. To restore sweetness in old vegetables, add a little sugar.
Well, wouldn't that?
Wow, mind blown. Wow, I am so you need this book. It is a set of 4 of these books. I don't think I told you guys. It's a set of 4 of these books. They're $10, and I've totally lost the price. But I've been making fun of them. I'm sure nobody wants them. So
that is such a novel concept, Patrick.
So 4 books from the 1955, 1954, $10. You can have all 4 books for $10, so $2.50 a piece. By giving me number 41. $10, number 41. That gets you all 4 of those catalogs. Oh, I forgot I had this set. This is actually a cool thing of ephemera.
Because you can laugh at them when you get them or display the cool graphics.
Who needs vitamins when you have sugar? Absolutely. All right. So the last piece of ephemera that I've got is I don't know how old these are, but I do believe they are old. It's a set of 4. So we've got these books. So this one, they're kind of interestingly designed. So this one, like if I'm holding up just any book, this would be the front of the book. And as you go through Piggy at the Fair, you get the story with colored illustrations of Piggy at the Fair. On the back, you got Piggy Goes to College. Now, it doesn't flip through backwards. It just means that those are the 2 stories that are in here. So as you go through Piggy at the Fair, you get the story of Piggy at the Fair with his graphics and the story. And then you get the story of Piggy Goes to College. So this basically, you just have 2 stories in each book. But for whatever reason, the back cover is what is the cover page for the second story. So in this case, once was a merry little fat. What meter is this written in? Once was a merry little fat little pig who wished for to see the world. All right, I have not even been drinking. So he got him dressed in his Sunday best, with his tail all tightly curled. So he's getting dressed in his Sunday best. Yeah, that one made sense. Then forth he fared on a fair fine day. All right, this is old. Yes, forth to a famous fair. And he chuckled as he thought, and he thought of naught but the figure he'd cut when there. He stopped for lunch at the Boar's Head Inn. Okay, he's a pig and he's eating at the Boar's Head Inn. All right.
That's a little disturbing.
And the country pigs simply stare at his style and dash, though they owned 'twas rash for a pig to fare forth to a fair. The merry little pig fared on, but when he had entered the gate, he was shockingly scared, and the way folks stared made his little heart palpitate. Now, that's a word that does not land in children's books very often.
No.
He's mine, cried a farmer. I saw him first, and he strode toward the pig in haste. Cut up and cured and sliced and skewered and smoked to the proper taste. What
no.
You're murdering him. He'll bring a fine sum. Up flew the heels of the frightened little pig. Wee wee! I wish I were safely home. No fair, oh fair, farewell, cried he.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So he got away, but that's
frightening for children.
That's frightening. So then Piggy goes to college. So he's evidently educated by not dressing up and going to the fairs. Now he's going to go to college. This little pig went to market. Pshaw! This little pig did not. This little pig went to college. Rah! And this is what he got. Yes, this little pig went to college, and now his troubles begin. I believe these people are playing football. I'm foreshadowing. For this little pig is a football and frightened out of his skin. This little pig went to college. Oh, why should a pig aspire? For him, it is only a skin game back in the same old mire. Yikes.
Wow.
All right. So we have the traumatizing pig stories. Next, because I'm selling these as a set because I didn't want to split them up. Next, because they're also, if you look really closely in the art, there's something that says 3E, and this one says 3C, and then I also have 3A and 3D. So I'm missing, I think, B. So, but I want to keep the ones that I have. I want to keep them together. So, Tommy Frog. Okay, children, gather together. We are going to read Tommy Frog and the Pirate. Tommy Frog and the Pirate. Oh, once or twice, whiche'er you please, there sailed the mill pond main, a pirate troll who took his toll from rich and poor and plain. The villagers of Lily Pond, the turtles, frogs, and elves, kept fast at home and stored their treasure on their highest shelves. Okay, at least I figured out the meter on this one.
But the highest shelves, like, why would that stop the pirate?
I guess the pirate's short. Well, and also his treasure are flies. That is his treasure. He's standing on the back of the frog hiding his flies. But now and then they had to cross the pond to get supplies. And one day Tom Thumb Frog set out to fetch some cooking flies. Before his boat was half across, that buccaneering troll had seized him, Tommy's watch and chain, and new green suit he stole. Now you shall walk the plank, he cried. Tom did, and forthwith sank. But coming up quite merrily, made faces from the bank. The troll had also caught a duck. He tried to hang the bird. It just flew up and snapped the rope. How perfectly absurd. That night we find the little troll a-writing in his log, you cannot hang a bird, I fear, nor can you drown a frog. And then it says, well, it's a good thing. Just kind of like a little non sequitur thrown out there. Nate, these do not have copyrights. I'm guessing 20s, 30s.
Yeah, based on the language.
Based on the language, I think it's even older, but based on the artwork and some of the illustrations and just the way that tuxedo was drawn, I'm thinking like 20s. And then Tommy Frog goes fishing. Tom Thumb was playing truant from Professor Bullfrog's school. Also, he'd gone a-fishing in the middle of the pool. The bites he got were numerous, though not the kind he wanted, but still he fished and fished and fished, unruffled and undaunted. Wanted, daunted. No. Along towards noon, he fell asleep. Then came a water spider, a-floating past him on a leaf, her knitting bag beside her. Now Grandma Spider knew Tom Thumb. She sternly shook her head. An example shall be made of this young truant frog, she said. She climbed aboard and spun a web around and round and round him. Pshaw, fast as any feeble fly, old Grandma Spider bound him. Yike.
Wow, that's dark.
Professor Bullfrog met him when his boat drifts into shore, and I've a notion Tom Thumb won't play truant anymore. Yike.
Man, that is some dark story.
Yep. And like you don't hate spiders enough. Now they're gonna like just
giving all the kids nightmares, even adults.
All right. So then the next one is, and I've kind of heard of this, the Land of Nod, but I don't know what that is referencing. But I've kind of heard of that. And then Rocking Horse Hill. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, the Land of Nod. I think there's a storybook that has it in it.
So the Land of Nod. 'Tis terribly odd in the Land of Nod. There are plenty of kind old bears, and the toys all talk and can even walk, and so can the clocks and chairs. All right, again, night terrors coming. Oh, there aren't any just plain people like teachers or fathers or cooks. But who do you suppose it was built for? Hi ho. Pardon me while I analyze that meter. Wait a minute. Oh, there aren't any just plain people, just like teachers or fathers or cooks. And who do you suppose it was built for? Hi ho. Why, for old and infirm broken toys. I'm lost. For dolls without wigs and for little lame pigs who've been played out by girls and by boys. Okay, that one rhymed again. That first part, I'm lost. For one-legged bow-wows and lambs without tails, and for ragtag dolls too, if you please. Every day they arrive, and my goody alive, they just look like poor war refugees. Yike.
Oh,
a little fat fairy who never has wed keeps the home and the darling old deer, sees the toys are all mended and properly fed, and dispenses large doses of cheer. And nobody calls me a child there. Proud pirates, chiefs ask me to dine. Oh, it's such a delightful and sociable place that I don't mind retiring at 9. Then again, another little known sequitur there. Ha ho hum.
That Land of Nod is written by Robert Louis Stevenson, who was obviously a famous Scottish novelist.
And that's 19th century, so that's even older. All right, then we got Rocking Horse Hill. There's the jolliest mansion on Rocking Horse Hill. An elf man once showed me the way. 'Tis a couple of smiles and a number of miles just beyond the great kingdom of play. And if you should peek in some fine afternoon, you'd see teddy bears leaning on canes and dollies with crutches all socially talking or walking in all of the lanes. They have dances and teas and the merriest times in their home up on Rocking Horse Hill. Those old worn-out toys, do you know, girls and boys? Just to think of it gives me a thrill. So, unfortunately, the only copyright information, Melody, is down at the very bottom. It's on the inside of each one, and it just gives the company information. So, you've got the illustrator, the company, which I did not look up, admittedly, and then who wrote the stories, but none of them have a copyright date. So, I guess based on the artwork, particularly, we're getting now into her hair. Maybe now we're into the maybe 20s. I'm thinking 20s, maybe 30s, but based on some of the language, it sounds even older.
Yes. And
then the last one is the one that's in the worst shape because this one has Old Doc Turtle, but Old Doc Turtle's cover has come off. So we're missing the back page for the last story. So the last story doesn't have a cover and it's missing its last page of text. So Old Doc Turtle, Tom Thumb Frog. So, and that's why I want to keep them together because some of the characters occur throughout them. Tom Thumb Frog sat on a log alone and by himself. When flying a butterfly kite, he spied a little brown merry elf. Little man, called Tom, say, can I play? The elf man laughed in glee. Come along, Tom Thumb, he chuckled. Come and sail this kite with me. Who thinks the little elf's going to have frog legs later?
I think it's going to be even creepier than that.
So away and away ran Tom Thumb Frog, away from his safe, foreshadowing, away from his safe, cool pond, over the meadow and through the wood to the dusty lane beyond. Then all at once he began to cough, to sputter and choke and sneeze. He tried a laugh, but it broke in half and finished a dismal wheeze. The elf man loaned him a hanky because he'd lost his own somewhere. And back to Lily Pond Town limped Tom, the picture of frog despair. Mrs. Tom Thumb gave a frightened croak, and off hustled Tom and she to the doctor for all the froggy folk. Old Jonathan Turtle, M.D. He put on his specs, and he looked at Tom with a stern and reproachful eye. No wonder you caught a cold, said he. You've gotten your feet quite dry. Put a cold moss plaster on his chest. I prescribe for the little scamp. A week in bed, and be sure, he said, to see that he's good and damp. Now, isn't that funny? And upside down, dry feet means colds in Froggy Town. All right, that was a little disappointment. And then the last story that is missing the cover is actually Lucky Peter, so we know what the story is. So we got Lucky Peter, a Dutch boy, about to be, beaten, I would assume. This story was told to me by a bird, so it must be true. Once there were, this isn't a poem, so we'll get that out of my voice. This story was told to me by a bird, so it must be true. Once there was a little bit of an orphan Dutch boy whom nobody wanted. Perhaps his name was too long. Oh, bite me. You see, it began with Peter, Ludwig, van der Vechten, Hohenbrummer, Pam, and went on for several minutes. One dark night, his foster father carried him to the top of the tall windmill and left him there. He will fall out, muttered the wicked old man, but the mill held its wings steady and called to the wind not to blow, and morning found the little boy safe and sound asleep. Then who should come along but a friendly stork? Hello, whistled he, a lost bird. So he took the band of Peter Ludwig's broad breeches in his bill. Off flew two little wooden shoes, whack, whack, right down on that wicked foster father's head. He had come out to look at his tulips. His best pipe crashed to the flags, and away he clumped down the street as if goblins themselves pursued him. And they may. But up, up, up circled the stork, carrying Peter to its nest in the chimney tops of one of the finest mansions imaginable.
Well,
and then you get to finish the story by yourself, because that's the last page.
At least I was happier than the spider eating the frog.
And this one, there are a couple, like this one, it looks like somebody did try and color one of the black and white pictures. And the Land of Nod, somebody drew a sun on the cover. But these, they're screaming to stay as a set, but they are equally screaming, cut this artwork apart. Yes, because these are frameable little gems that are so bright and so vibrant based on their age that it's a super, super cool set. So I picked up all four. I considered separating them, but I don't want to. So you get all four, and all four of them, you get them for $20. So $5 a piece. So $20 for the full set of four, and you get it by giving me number 90. So $20, number 90 for the set.
And I think that Land and Nod sounds familiar, Patrick, because of winking, I can't ever say it.
Winking, blinking, and nod. Okay, you're right. I think
that's
so.
That's probably why that sounds so familiar.
That's because they're always great at enunciation. Yes. I did I took lessons for, not really singing lessons, but I took theater singing lessons. And the instructor had me sing in front of the class, and gave me tips on how to improve. And then the next person came up after me, and the instructor just say, okay, we're just going to start by saying it sucks that you followed someone who enunciated so well, because they're like, you did fine, but we were all used to listening to him. We couldn't understand what you were saying. And I'm like, okay, I feel bad now, but that is what I do. I enunciate. So it doesn't look like anybody wants them.
No,
so
Reclaimed Treasures by Mary is picking them up.
Oh, excellent. And Mary was one of the ones that wanted the ephemera, so that's great. All right. Thank you, Mary. And if people are not familiar with Mary, Mary has her own live sales. She started, I had a couple weeks off, but she's picked them up again. Hers are on Sundays. So Reclaimed Treasures by Mary is her channel. So you can follow her. And she's picked up a lot of ephemera from me. So great.
Yeah, and she does some great junk journaling and crafting and framing.
She's a great photographer too. So I don't know. I haven't seen one of the recent sales. So I don't know if you're still selling your photography, Mary, but she does some great photography. I picked up a couple pieces from that. So
she really does.
So yeah, so like I said, we're going to figure out, and it's getting a little late now. At some point, I'll probably in the chat. I appreciate the people that have hung out. Actually, there was like 60 people here at one point. I'm trying to figure out, one, I have to still have fun doing this. Yes, I enjoy selling some things, but this is a side hustle for me. I have a full-time income. This has to be fun. And I'm not enjoying this later night slot. I just have to figure out, once I go back to my regular slot, I'm not sure I want to go back to doing a traditional sale. I had a lot more fun tonight. If I had done this as a sale, we would have cranked this out in an hour and I'd been done. I'd be like, yeah, but I just had a blast. Now, if I do this every week, I'm not sure it'd be as much fun, but you guys were very interactive and you've had some, hopefully you guys have had some fun hanging out tonight. But tell me, I still do not do offer ups, but I realize some people like those. I will not do offer ups on my channel. I'm just not going to do them. Some consideration whether I would do, there's a couple of people that are doing Instagram that I've started following and watching. Maybe I'd want to do something there, but I can't spread myself too thin. Like, it's really what it boils down to. And I'm trying to list more things on eBay, which is, sometimes is good. That takes time as well to, get the pictures taken done well. I am going to probably within the next week. So make sure if you don't follow me on Instagram, if you do Instagram, make sure you follow me there. I just changed my tag. It's now Trusty Huckster Mercantile. I was discovering people were struggling with the TH Mercantile in the Instagram community, because I would be in people's chats who knew me, but they didn't recognize the TH Mercantile. They thought it said the Mercantile, so they didn't know it was me. So I have now changed it, so it's Trusty Huckster Mercantile in both places. What I'll be doing in the next week or so, I am going to do my very first drop sale on Instagram, where I'm going to say, here are the items that I'm going to be listing. I'm going to be listing them at a certain time, and if you are interested in them, I will tag you, and then I will post them. At this point, what it looks like my first drop sale will be is about, I think I've got 8 brooches. So I'm going to sell all the brooches as an Instagram drop sale and just see what happens. So it's not a live sale. It's literally just going to be, if you're not familiar with that concept, you see it, follow my channel or my page, and I will say, okay, I don't know when it'll be yet, but sale it's on Saturday at 5 p.m. I will be dropping, these items. I'll show you the pictures of what I'm going to do. So if there's anything in there you like, you need to come back at 5 p.m. on Saturday or whatever it is, and I will just post one picture at a time of all 8 with as many different pictures as I can, measurements and write-ups, and then it's going to be first to claim. So I know there's a lot of people like, oh, but internet's not fast, it's not fair, blah. Again, I'm not selling the freaking Mona Lisa. I wanted to be fun. Mary's saying drop sales are popular. And, as Catherine's saying, I'm going to try and do a new way. Like, to me, I'm still going to photograph all these things. I'm considering buying one of those softwares that allows you to schedule Instagram. And if I can do that, that'll make it a lot easier. But the idea of having to sit, like, even 8 items, to sit there and manually create all 8 posts all at one time, I'm going to be like, I got to do this, get these posted. I'd rather be able to schedule them, but those services cost money. So I got to decide if it's worth doing that. And just see what kind of response I get. I've tried to sell on Instagram before. Like, I'll show some of the items that I'll be selling here. And if they don't sell, I then list them on Instagram saying it's still available. Very rarely have I sold anything through Instagram. So I don't know if just because people that have followed my page, they're not buying like that. So who knows? I've heard of Whatnot. I asked Tim about it a little bit, but I thank you, Cheryl, because I actually feel the same way. I don't think it's for me. I know George has started doing it. I just saw something. I haven't seen his channel yet, or I haven't seen him do it, but I saw he promoted something that he was also on Whatnot. I'm not sure that that's my thing. And to be perfectly honest, the live sales on Instagram seem to be popular, but I don't know. Like, I watched, Katie hosted My Vintage is 1976 a couple of weeks ago. Pyrex Nate, we have to be careful, don't confuse our names. Pyrex Nate did a great chat on Pyrex, and he mentioned, he's like, oh, we're going to be doing a 12-hour live sale where he rotated. He and Dakota's
Same as it never was.
Things that never was. What is it? Something never was?
Same as it never was.
Dakota's Same as it never was. So they were kind of like the hosts, and then they kept bringing in 2 sellers every half hour or hour. I don't remember how they did it. But anyway, I've popped in a couple of times. I'm sorry. I felt bad for the seller that was down in the lower left-hand corner that had the comments across her face. It's like I couldn't see the item. It's so small. Some items were going for hundreds of dollars. I'm like, I can barely see it. So I don't know. I'm not sure if that's going to be my future or not. But does Hootsuite have a free version? My old company, we did it, and I can't remember what we used, but we definitely paid for it. So I looked into them, but the ones I was finding all had a fee. So I'll check Hootsuite. So I've at least heard of that. Seller can choose 30, 60 seconds per item. They also need to fix a few things. I guess you're probably talking about whatnot. I guess the question ends up being, why do people like offer ups and like auctions? Because tonight is a perfect example. A lot of people are like, oh, well, it's no fair. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to inflect a derogatory tone. But what I have heard is people will say, oh, it's more fair to do an offer up because then anyone who wants it can have it. I had 10 items tonight and sold 2. You guys could send me an email. You guys, these were last night. You guys send me an email 24 hours later. You can still have it. Your internet's not slow. I'm just not selling anything people want. So yeah, Katie had stuff that was left over. So it's one of those cases that this needs to be fun. And it's not that doing the sales isn't fun, but it's one of those, like, I kind of forced myself to get into the sale, and then I got frustrated because things weren't selling. So it's just one of those cases where it's like, I just need to know what people are looking for. I don't enjoy doing shop with me videos, but everyone says that's what they like. So I do kind of like a version of shop with me videos that I think people like. But for all of you who think we make money on YouTube, I make, like, if you average it out for the year, I don't even make $100 a month. Like, not even close to $100 a month.
Yep.
So it's like, that is not a moneymaker. Like, if I had 100,000 followers or 25,000 followers, okay, that'd be very different. I don't. So I make videos because I want to make videos, not because they're going to make me money. So it's, so I've just got to figure out, and some people will say, I want this, and then I do it and it doesn't get watched. And we all have horror stories like that. It's like, and sometimes the most time, Katie and I both have talked about this, some videos that we put individually, we don't do joint videos, but the video you put the most time into and you get most excited by and you do the most editing of all that ends up being the one that gets the fewest views. And even the triptych, one of my favorite triptychs to research and present was the Tucker. And the Tucker triptych is still the least viewed triptych of all of the triptychs we've done. And it's like, you know what? I still enjoy doing it, so I have no regrets. But it's like, man, I am not hitting a home run in what people want to see. And you were right, Michelle. This time slot is difficult. So once I get back to the regular, but I just don't know if I want to get back to I'm just going to do another sale. There are so many sales out there. Yeah. I think people are just overwhelmed by them.
The market's becoming a little oversaturated, in my opinion.
So Catherine is doing a lice sale. So, she's got some great hygiene products coming out. And I'm sorry, live sale, of course. Good night, Leanne.
Night, Leanne.
So I love Harry Tornado. Oh, he just did his first whatnot sale. Okay, so now that's another case. He has 50,000 followers. Like, I don't exactly know what his number is, but it was very, very large. And I love his videos. And what I love about what he does is, and the way when I first found him, he was already big, but he's gotten much, much bigger, is he's very honest with what the resale lifestyle is what the resale like realities are. Because there are some people, and I'm sure like we're all friends here, like though I've never met any of you. But you get to a point where there's a lot of people that think, well, I'm going to do this because I know so and so does live sales and I've seen what things sell for on his channel or on her channel. I'm going to buy the same product and I want to make the same money that they make. Yeah, that's not realistic.
No,
And in some
not
cases,
the
there are people
reality.
who've built their entire channel on just having live sales. There's nothing wrong with that. You can do whatever you want. Everyone can do their YouTube channel their own way. But then if you're not fans of live sales, then it's kind of like, well, there's no additional content. And a perfect example is tonight. At one point, we had over 60 people here. I sold 3 things. So 95% of the people that join are not buyers. You're just here to hang out. Maybe you're here because I'm somewhat entertaining. Maybe. Maybe like some people like that. I do like to do educational stuff. So some people like that. And Catherine's right. Some of those channels are absolutely massive because it is their life. Like Harry Tornado, if you don't follow him, he doesn't do a lot in vintage. He talked a little bit about when COVID first, kind of took hold. He does resale, and sometimes he would have some vintage stuff, but like he does not get into, as a rule, glass, collectibles, porcelain, partially because he doesn't want to be responsible for shipping it. Because if we all remember back in the early days of COVID, how long shipments were taking to get anywhere, and they were almost always looked like they've been run over by a truck. And so there were a lot of resellers that were in that kind of and I don't mean just in a pejorative way, but they only did non-vintage. It's like one of the time I was in a chat and they say, I won't sell anything that's breakable until this is all over. And I'm like, good Lord, if I didn't sell anything that was breakable, I wouldn't sell. In my early days, that's all I sold was glass, porcelain, and pottery. So I had to just pack the crap out of it so that it would survive. But different people approach it differently. And he was always very honest with like, what were his costs? He would do videos, even like particularly early on before he got super, super big. This is again, Harry Tornado. He would do videos like, okay, today I sold 25 items on eBay. Here are the 25 items that I sold for. This is what I sold. Here are my eBay fees. Here is my cost of goods. Here is my shipping supplies. Here are my taxes, which blew me away because a lot of resellers don't even think taxes exist. So he like puts his taxes in there because he has to pay them as that's his income. And so he would say like, okay, I had $1,000 day, but my profit, and profit's air quotes, but like my profit, he calculates like I made $100 today. And he's like, I can't live off of this. So he would talk about what can I do differently? What can I do better? So he is very approachable. He's got an amazing dog, Mose, adorable. So he's very fun to watch, but I don't watch him all the time because he does get into more, I like the vintage stuff. And so it's like, that is great. You found a pallet of diapers.
Yay, it's worth it.
I don't want to watch you sell it. That is not what I am watching for. I will be doing a sale with Sean. He has invited me. I've invited him to be on my channel, but we couldn't schedule it before I got to these late night hours. And he can't do anything with us on Wednesdays for a different conflict that he has. So I might start doing joint sales, but I did joint sales for a while. And I will be perfectly honest, I got burned out by them and it became very frustrating. It's like herding cats sometimes. So those will be few and farther between. So Annie's like, I think late sales are more laid back and conversational. Yeah, when nobody buys anything, it has to be conversational. And like for the West Coast, this wasn't all that late. So that's the other thing I've got to take into consideration.
It's finding that balance and finding the time slot that works not only for you, because it does have to work for you, but then also for your viewers. And, I've gone on YouTube multiple times to the little channel analytics and said, okay, when are my people on YouTube? And tried to figure out like, what's the best time? And sometimes it's playing around with it. But then if you play around with it so much, you lose that consistency of slot. And then people kind of forget that you exist at a normal time. So it's hard. And with all the amount of sales that are currently on YouTube, it's great that people want to try live sales and start a channel. And, I wish everybody well. but with the amount of sales, it's impossible for one person or many people to get to all of the sales. And just tonight, I was looking online before this sale, including, I think, one Instagram sale, and that's a whole nother world. There were 6 YouTube sales going on all at the same time across different channels that I know we all follow and like. And you want to be supportive of everybody, but it's almost impossible to get to everybody's sales. And it's hard, when the market becomes kind of filled up and you have to, like Patrick had to move his slot to later. I mean, a lot of people have kind of either sailed out or they've gone to bed, for the East Coast people. So it's hard. It's just a whole different world of trying to figure out what works and what makes you happy, because you have to do what you enjoy doing.
Right. And I made the choice because for people that aren't familiar with it, because there are some new names in here. So I'm actually in rehearsals again for a show. That's the whole reason I got pushed back to this later time slot, because I had rehearsals on Thursday night. Well, the first week of January, they made the decision because of Omicron and some of the numbers, and we had people that were out. They postponed the show by 5 weeks. And so we ended up not having any rehearsals during the month of January. Well, I could have gone back to my regular time slot, quote unquote, my regular time. I don't have a time slot, but the time that I normally go is not my time, but the time I normally go. But then starting this week, I would have had to push back to the later one. And I'm just like, you know what? At this point, I'm still think people are still trying to find me. I'm just going to stay where I am. So so I technically, quote unquote, switched with Nancy from This Overstuffed House. She was in the chat a little bit ago. So she's taking, quote unquote, my slot. I'm taking, quote unquote, her slot. And she said, like, at whatever point I'm done with the show, I can go back and take my slot. We're not going to try and compete for it. But that's what's happening. Like, as Angela just said, some people are doing 2 shows, if not more, a week, or because particularly if you start then saying they're going to be on other people's shows, people are everywhere, and at some point people are going to conflict with each other. And initially we all the resellers try to be very cavalier about it, and just like really, like, not even cavalier, just respectful, and say, hey, you know what, this is the only time I can do this, and many people told me that, and I'd be like, look, you need to do what you do. I mean, we have some big time competition against us for the Tales from the Triptych. And we have just chosen, that's the same time slot I've had for 2 years. We're just in the same time slot. It's not a sale. So, like, we don't have to have people there live. It'd be nice to have more people there, but we're fine. I'm always a big believer of quality over quantity. And so if we've got quality people there and they're engaged and they're asking us questions and we're having fun, that's fine. Yes, maybe another channel is 500 people at the same time. Well, that means those 500 people can't be on ours. So I get that. But I'm also not going to start chasing the calendar, try and find a time like, oh, I don't want to compete against them. There's no competition. Even if I was doing a sale, people will find who they want to buy from. Yep. And clearly other people have huge audiences that I've never received for whatever reason. I am not going to be everything to all people, just as they're not necessarily my thing. So it's always going to be a case where we just need to figure it out.
And I mean, with all the amount of sales and live chats and things that happen within the community, there is something for everyone. And I think that's kind of nice that we have such a diverse community. So if you don't like maybe a sale, you can come hang out with us and learn something cool. And I like that we offer something that I think is a little bit different than what is currently happening within the community. It's nice to have that variation of things. And people can choose what they want to go to. And in the early days of live sales, I would look at the schedule and I would say, okay, well, I don't want to do this because someone's doing something here. But then it got to the point where there's so many people that if I spent my whole existence trying to work around the calendar, I would never get anything done that I want to for my channel. So at some point, you just got to go live. You just got to do what you can. Be a little bit smart about it. If there's something massive happening across, several larger channels, maybe it's not the best time to go live and like try to do a sale, but I mean, you got to do what you got to do. And it's just finding, your core audience of people that want to come hang out like you all are tonight and have fun.
Yeah, exactly. And have fun, because my core audience is never, like, to me, my core audience, I don't want to build a core audience that's just about the sales.
Yeah.
because one, that puts a lot, like, not that doing other videos doesn't put responsibility on me too, but it's a different type of responsibility. And it's also like, this gets into mental health and mental wellness and all this other stuff. Like, there are times that I'll finish a sale and my favorite item didn't sell. And it's like, I'll literally be like, why didn't this sell? Like, I'll be like, oh my God, I don't know. I don't understand the market. I don't know what I'm doing. Everyone hates me. We all go down that rabbit hole every
Yeah.
once in a while. And I just have to, like, realize, I mean, I've been doing live sales every day, every week since May 12th of 2020. So I'm going on almost 2 years of weekly live sales. It's a lot. And I will say, I mean, I've enjoyed the income. I'm not going to lie. Like, hello, who wouldn't? But that income comes at a cost. And I saw Catherine just said something, that she's doing these live sales that, it's like she's barely making minimum wage by the time you actually calculate the number of hours you're in the sale, the number of hours you plan for the sale, the number of hours you do the invoicing and shipping. And then you're also like, okay, you may have sold an item for $25, like, those old books that didn't sell. They're $20. They're worth more, but I have a cost associated with those. It's not like I picked them up for a dime. So like, I'm not making $20. I have to take away my cost. So it's like, you start calculating that out on an hourly basis. It's embarrassingly low. So it's like, it's not, I mean, there was a short time for like 2 weeks. Katie knows about it. For like 2 weeks, I considered, things were so bad at my job that I was considering quitting my full-time job and just doing this full-time. So I started listing more on eBay. I started doing a lot more, and I realized there is no way I can do this. That one is just like, it's not necessarily any more work, but it's like, if I started doing it full time, what I can make on this, I still have to pay for health insurance. I go pay for health insurance. I have to do all these other things. There'd be costs that I would incur. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not at that point. And I'm not sure I would enjoy it enough if it became all about the dollars. I was on a show, and you guys can figure out what show I was on, but I was on a show, and a comment was made, which was somewhat hurtful in my opinion, but I understood why the comment was made. And it was, kind of a little bit of discussion about how I sell versus how other people sell. And the comment was made, well, if you did this as a full-time job, you would think differently. And it's like, you know what, maybe I would. That's a totally hypothetical comment, but I still want to have fun. And so if it turns into, I need to sell a pallet of diapers because that's how I'm going to pay my mortgage, that ain't going to be fun. Like, going back to Harry Tornado, he sold, I think it was like a shampoo or a lotion or something. He got this great deal. It took him over a year to sell that at, like,
I wouldn't want to store it.
yeah. And it's like, exactly. I don't have any place to store a pallet of shampoo. I mean, I've been holding onto a case of Maxi pads, like that took up enough space. To crank out, like, yeah, big picture, he made a ton of, not a ton, but he made a lot of money. It was definitely a good purchase, but it took him a full year to get through it. And at each time he sold one, he only sold for, like, he made like $3 or $4 each bottle. Okay, well, he bought 500 bottles, so that's great, but that to me is drudgery work that I don't want to do. And I'm doing it by myself. I live alone. I don't have a staff. My daughter's away in another state, and this is it. So if I'm not having fun doing it, it's not going to get done. And
the live sales are a lot of work. I think that a lot of people, when the community first started up, they saw other people doing live sales and they wanted to jump in, which is great. But I think a lot of people didn't realize how much goes on to prepare for a live sale. I mean, just getting ready for my sale with Pam tomorrow, on Saturday, the amount of photographs that you spend taking for things. And I enjoy photography. So in some way, that is a little bit fun for me. I like the challenge of trying to get really good light and really good photos. But just some of the brooches I'm bringing, they're hard to photograph because they glow. And I wanted to show that in the previews. But then you end up, what would take some people like a minute to snap a photo. Now I'm sitting here on the floor with all these things and lights trying to balance everywhere. And, one photo takes 30 minutes to get, or something to that effect. So now you're taking time with the photographs, and you got to post to Instagram, share to your stories for the promotions for all the sales and that can be fun too, but it does take time. And then you got to, list your items, research them, clean them, Make sure you've got all your behind the scenes work done so you're ready when the sale comes. Measure things. Like I spent a lot of time before the ephemera sale yesterday just measuring things so that I would know, like, and I could measure it on air, sure, but it's a lot smoother in my opinion if I have it done.
Right.
So I like to measure things. I like to have things, and getting all of that set up just takes so much time. And then the shipping, I when I do sales, it's fun, but then my weekends now are shipping. It's like my whole counter is spread out with shipping supplies, and I don't have a space to cook because now suddenly it's like shipping central has exploded and thrown up all over my kitchen.
Well, and Katie knew the drama that I've been going through the last few days. I started a new collection, and I've hinted at it a couple of times, but you guys will see a video on it probably next week. I've got to edit it out.
Amazing.
And Katie is also starting collection. Nate,
Yep.
we're trying to get Nate to start the collection as well. It'll be a lot of fun. But long story short, I lost a piece of the collection. Literally lost a piece of the collection. It's small, but it was one of those cases that I knew I bought it. I knew I had it at one point when I was photographing, and then I couldn't find it. And I'm like, where could it have gone? And the problem was my place had become overrun with packing material, with stuff from the last sale. So boxes were everywhere. Like I needed to suddenly just clean up. And then I did finally found it, but it was literally days that it was missing. Like I'm like crawling around on hands and knees trying to find this thing because it was less than an inch long. So it was something really small. And it was simply because it just took over. Like it's one of those cases. I like to be able to take my lights down. Like I don't, I have big lights.
Yeah, Patrick.
They take up a lot of space. So I don't like to keep them up when I'm not going to be using I don't use them for work. So if I'm not using them, I want to be able to put them away. But if I'm going to do 2 shows in a week, it's like, do I take them down and then put them back up the next day? So things just start getting a little bit out of control. So like last week, I think I literally only I did my mystery boxes and that was it. So I'm like, I can't deal with this. I just need to be able to start cleaning up. So sometimes it's mental health. Like I've taken weeks off, or we just did a chat, which is kind of what tonight turned into, because like those are fun. And at some point I'll be looking at my checkbook going, hey, where'd all my money go? A sale would have been nice, but it needs to be a balance. And so I will close things up because I didn't mean to get melancholy. Katie, you've got then, because there was a confusion. I think you had said tomorrow, and then Angela's asking, your sale is actually with Pam. That's not until Saturday, right?
Yep. I got all
so
my
what's the details on that one?
So this Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern during Pam's regular sale time, I'm honored to be joining her for a special sale. And let me just say, I've got a lot of good brooches. I'm really lucky. I found some pretty cool things for the sale. So you want to make sure you tune into that 8 p.m. Eastern this Saturday on Pamela Blanchard's channel. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Excellent. And what else do you have coming up on your channel over the next week or two?
So if you want to see a little preview of the brooches that I found, I'm going to be taking you on a shopping trip tomorrow, and it is fabulous. So the video will come out tomorrow, and you will get to see more in-depth view of all of the brooches at a particular spot that I shop. And the lady that has all these brooches, she travels around the world to source for her booth. So she's been to England, Italy, France, all over Austria. She buys at probably some of those amazing flea markets. And I've been trying to get her to do a duo dive, but she's not too comfortable on camera. I asked her in the day, and of course, the people at the antique mall said, no, I don't think she'll do that. But I will be sharing that booth and all of the amazing pieces. So you want to make sure you tune into that. And then we have a duo dive on my channel this coming Wednesday, and Patrick will be joining me and sharing his flower frog collection. So I'm very excited about that.
Excellent. And then on my channel, it's coming up on Sunday. I think Nate had to step away to cook dinner, but Nate is the third part of the triptych. And so Tales from the Triptych will return to my channel this coming Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And I will be telling the tale of the Edwardian banquet table dining a la Downton Abbey. So we'll be setting a Downton Abbey dinner table with all of the flatware, china serving pieces and discussing the courses of food that would be presented at an Edwardian dinner table. So that'll be on Sunday. And then I will be posting probably, my goal right now is to have it done by Tuesday. I will edit this video about my new collection, which will probably eventually become either a duodive or a triptych as well. But for now, I'm just introducing it as my new collection. I specifically waited to edit it and finish it because I had 3 auctions that were closing today. Excuse me. Sorry, that was really loud. I should have muted. I had 3 auctions that were closing today, and I didn't want the video to go live before those auctions closed because I wanted them. So we shall see later.
And this collection is epic, let me just say, because it's something I'm also now collecting.
Yes, we've all become obsessed with this, and even Nate loves them, but he cannot find them in New Zealand, so we will have to ship them to him. But as I said, the one I lost was only like an inch long. They're very small. They're very lightweight, so it'll be fairly easy to send things to Nate. So it might be if we can convince Nate to make that last hurdle, it would be the first item that the entire triptych actually collects.
Oh, that's cool.
So
you gotta get Nate to do this. Come on, Nate.
All right. So thanks everyone for joining and hanging out. And I hope you did have some fun. You know, I'm joking about not buying. At no point am I speaking to any of you, like trying to guilt you into anything. Like Tim, I think, was the one that said it. The whole thing about these live sales, and this is something that different people have different perspectives, and I have to be practical when I only have, 50, 60, 70 people are going to show up in a sale. It's the right person for the right time. So like every once in a while I might say, this is worth more, but I'm not asking that because I only have 50 people. And the likelihood that one of those 50 people woke up today saying, I need this in my life is pretty low. So I need to kind of come up with something that says, hey, this is worth more than what I'm asking, but it's inexpensive enough that you have some fun. And so, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And that's why, like I said, I don't want my channel to be all about sales. I want it to be about fun. I want it to be about education. I love doing the triptychs. I love doing the duodives. Yes, I wish our numbers were bigger on those, but in some cases we watch the numbers grow afterwards. Maybe they're not there for the lives, but it'll grow. So that gives us that, I hate to say satisfaction, but it's like, okay, there are people that like this kind of stuff. But I also recognize there are probably a lot more people that would rather us, tell fart jokes or something. But that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen on my channel. So you're going to learn. I would rather educate and entertain. I want it to be info. I think Catherine was the one that said infotainment or edutainment.
I like that, Catherine.
Yeah, that is absolutely what I want to be able to do, because that's what I like. I love finding channels that will educate me, even if it's in a sale. Don't just say, hey, it's blue, give me $20. Say like, what is the name of blue? What is this? What is that? And that's what I like, but that's not to everyone's taste. So I recognize I may not be the person for the masses, but I appreciate all of you coming in. I'm not preaching to the choir. I appreciate that you guys are here. You're my honorary Huckster hecklers. And at some point I'll make merch so you guys can have something, like print something out, like pin it, like something free, being like pin to your shirt and wear, be my honorary Huckster heckler. But hope you all have a great rest of your evening or getting into early morning for some of you. And, definitely follow Katie. If you don't already, follow Nate, Soul Nate, because I will be doing the next triptych, but then it'll be Katie and then it'll be Nate again. So we rotate between, and Katie and I alternate between the 2 duodives. So hers is, I will be her duodive guest next week. But then we've got some fun ones planned after that that'll alternate between the 2. So thank you all for hanging out with us. Thanks for giving us your time. Thanks for putting your trust in Trusty Huckster. Night, everybody.